StreamLabs. He's a dork. You don't know nothing about computers.
You don't even know what an Arduino is, dude.
I don't know what. She sounds like a nice lady.
Okay, so Shab, do you want to tell people why the stream went down?
Because everybody's internet, including mine, is not 100% reliable.
Your internet? So Dirt thought that Jack knocked down like your modem or something.
I'm still not convinced that's not what happened.
My Jack doesn't even go up there where the modem's at and stuff. It's just,
where's Jack?
Not in here. Should I get him?
There's actually a cyber attack from Hamas.
Well, here, let's get
the cat
back on topic.
You get back on topic.
ကျွန်တော်နဲ့တူနေခဲ့တဲ့လူတွေအများစုဆိုဒေတာကလူတွေအများစုဆိုရင်ဒီလောက်ထိစိတ်ရင်းစုရဲ့လူတွေမဟုတ်ကြဘူး။ဒါပေမဲ့အခုလိုမျိုးအာဏာသိမ်းပြီးတဲ့နောက်ပိုင်းမှာလူတွေရဲ့အမြင်ကိုတို့ကိုယ်တိုင်တော့ဘလူးတွေလိုနောက်တိတ်ဆန်တွေလိုဖြစ်သွားတဲ့အချိန်မှာစိတ်မကောင်းဘူး
Did now took part in the protests. His tattoo of the face of elected
there you go.
leader Aung San Suu Kyi became one of the lasting images of the
Look, you're missing it, Dirt. There's another.
This is the one we already saw.
The one was a lot smaller.
Yeah, that was a chest tattoo on the last guy.
Yeah, but we've seen this one.
Yeah.
တောင်းဆိုနေရပဲတရလက်မဟုတ်နေလက်မဟုတ်လားလာချီပြီးတော့ငင်းချမ်းသွားတောင်းဆိုတယ်ကျွန်တော်လိုချင်တာတွေသူတို့ကဘာဖြစ်လာလဲဆိုတော့ငင်းချမ်းဆန္ဒပြတဲ့လူတွေသူတို့ဖြိုခွင်းတာတွေကရိုက်နေဖမ်းဆီးတာတွေကတော်တော်ကိုရက်ဆက်လာတော့ကိုမျက်စိရှိမှလည်းကျွန်တော်တကယ်ချင်းကြီးစနေ6ထိတယ်ပြောရတော့လက်နက်ကင်
Okay. I showed you this one for the
what a
children.
crybaby.
War appears to be turning against the Myanmar military regime.
Within the space of a few days, several towns, these were captured.
ကတော့မြန်မာနိုင်ငံကိုချိန်လုံးတစ်ခါပေးနေတဲ့စစ်ကောင်စီပေါ့သူရဲ့အခြေခံအဆောက်အအုံအကုန်လုံးဖျက်ဆီးရမယ်ဖျက်ဆီးပြီးမှတော့ရအောင်
As Myanmar's humanitarian
Chinese government, the junta, they took our stream down.
crisis continues.
They DDoS Shab.
Since the military takes
Yes, it's because I have a big pee-pee.
When the dust settles, what will become of the beleaguered country?
We see a lot of different armed groups controlling their own territory.
You're the greatest, Gene.
Pereni State, eastern Myanmar.
Greatest.
Somewhere in the mountain terrain, these young people are out under the stars, keeping warm by the campfire. It's Christmas, the time to...
It's like the kind of kids that, like, I went to college with. Like, when they're like Gen Z fighting against them, like, I can kind of see it.
Gather and be merry. While the holidays are a break from school or work from those young people, here, things are different. These youths are rebel soldiers from the Urban Revolutionary Front, embroiled in a deadly civil war against Myanmar's military government, whose forces are a mere 32 kilometers away.
See, these are like my, like, DCOM 102, like, class, like, my statics and mechanics class, like, this is them on the front lines. And that's why I think the South, the redneck states, are going to lose. Because I think it's like, where are all the MIT students at? All those libtard, Princeton, MIT.
Dude, see, that's the problem with these. You're pitting the states against one another, John. I mean, it's terrifying. It's because that's if I'd imagine that'd probably be what would happen in a civil war in America. You know, you declare red or blue for your state, and then next thing you know, you're either the enemy or you're not, based on who you're talking to. And not everyone within that fucking state thinks the same way.
Yeah,
so it's terrible. It's fucking horrifying. People are stupid.
Yeah,
put me on the record. Put me on the record right now. I'll say I don't think we'll see an American civil war. I think maybe we'll see a couple of more crazy mass shootings and maybe insurgent activity, but
you'll see a bunch of terrorist cults pop up.
Maybe, yeah, but
no, it'll be probably more like Waco situations where you got like these militias holed up in this bunker or fucking compound and some shit like, you ain't taking my guns.
What I think it will be, if anything, the most extreme scenario is it's going to be some kind of like QAnon ideology. They're all going to like, there's going to be some flag or symbol that's shown on the internet that they all share. Yeah, I'm poor. You're going to have kids that are suspended from school because they're being stupid and wearing it on their hat. And then you're going to have people that hey, they shot up a building, they did this, and it's not going to be something that the military is dealing with. It's going to be something that like the FBI is dealing with. It's going to be something where, hey, they found a detachment of like 10 rednecks planning to bomb this place, and they were just all arrested today. And it's going to be 8 rednecks arrested here. A few weeks later, you might find out that these guys got arrested. 6 months later, and it's just going to be, they're probably just going to become some like terrorist group.
It's going to be like a bunch of rednecks sleeping with their sister cells.
And I'll say it too. You can't just paint this all shit on the red shit. There's plenty of fucking bloodthirsty people on the left too. So there'll be, Antifa shit that goes down too that people will have to be like, whoa. But I imagine, I won't throw Antifa under the bus, but there's already shit that Antifa's done. People going, whoa. So
yeah.
Or people who claim to be Antifa, whatever. It's the problem with all this bullshit is it's just so fucking ephemeral and fucking non-existent. These people just love it.
Yeah. But it's also usually when they do talk about it, like the rednecks, they usually do picture it like the map of the Civil War, Confederate States versus Union States. And if that happens again, then the South is even more fucked than they were last time. Because if it's like citizens that are supposed to be like putting up their arms, where are all the prestigious universities in the country? It's like, look at a political map or a political chart of, I don't think there's a lot of conservatives who are your doctors, your engineers, your architects, your chemists, your scientists, your accountants, all of those white collar jobs, all like your programmers, like IT majors, very blue and left leaning.
Well, John, you said chemists. You didn't specify what kind of chemist, so.
Well, that's like saying you didn't specify what kind of doctor.
Well, as far as chemist, I mean, when you think of meth, you don't think of a Democrat.
I don't think of Republicans either. I think that's kind of
homeless rednecks.
Meth is apolitical.
I think of libertarians when I think of meth.
Yeah. I think of the Green Party. Yeah. No, I don't. That's actually the last party you think of.
Well, if you go with what is it called? Breaking Bad, blue. I mean, you can be throwing in Democrat.
It was blue, wasn't it?
The URF is an armed resistance group which formed in 2021. The military toppled Myanmar's elected government in February of that year on the grounds that it subverted the election.
Went up
to 21 views. Good.
Dude, this guy's doing a Donald Trump.
I would fucking say something about that. Dude, dealing with this situation right now, but we have more.
Did you notice what the guy said, Sheen? He said the election was rigged.
They always say that. I mean, every U.S. election, people make that claim. That,
but no, like this, I don't think he's talking about.
I know. Like, it's the same thing here. It's like every fucking because it's political football.
Yeah.
And every single and you see this all over the country where one side wins and then like they just riot and like take over the Capitol. The military forms a coup, takes over the Capitol. You have a bunch of people that, like in Sri Lanka, it was something where they lost the election and they all went in and squatted like in the Capitol building. It's just people being big babies, and it's like, well, I believe in democracy just as long as my side always gets the popular vote. I believe in freedom of speech just as long as nobody disagrees with me. And if you disagree with me, I'll throw a tantrum and start screaming and cussing you out. But it's your fault for being annoying and starting shit.
John,
when people disagree with me, they deserve to be treated like shit because they're starting shit. But when I disagree with other people, well, I'm right.
John, when you say political football, I think of like European football, soccer, because like if you go back and forth, nothing fucking happens. And then when one side scores, the other side riots. It's not like American football.
Yeah.
So
that's odd. That
am I right?
Because riots happen a lot. like in European countries and stuff over sports. It doesn't happen that often in America, which you would think that it happens more in America.
So yeah, that was my thinking is like after like a soccer game or whatever, there's more like fights or brawls or
Kurt wants to say something.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, John. I'm gonna humbly correct you, John, because I've thought this multiple times. In fact, every time you say it, but I've never took the chance to correct you because who am I? But I Googled it this time, John. Okay, so you incorrectly used the term political football. The term you're looking for is identity politics, I believe. The term political football is associated with a wedge issue like, say, abortion, where it gets tossed back and forth, where, we're going to talk about abortion for the next 20 years because, we're just going to talk about banning it. And then
political football is just people treat it like they're like little kids. It's just
political football is a topic or issue that is seized by the opposing political parties or factions and made a more political issue than it might initially seem to be.
I always thought it was just like a lot of people, the way they go about politics, it's like supporting their football team. It's
it's identity politics. That's identity politics is the term you're looking for.
Since the coup, the SAC has waged deadly battles against the armed resistance groups throughout the country. One report estimated that almost 7,000 civilians have
what is it? Rate Jews out of 10. I'm not going to rate an entire group out of 10 because I don't look at people like they're a Borg. They're individuals.
I'll rate them.
Depends on the individual Jewish person.
Give me. That's fucked up, bro.
What the fuck, man?
Fucked up.
Wait, so what is it? Jesse Arthur says makes 0 sense. What makes 0 sense?
Oh, it's because you said that you made a joke, or one of us made a joke about meth making us think of Democrats.
Okay,
but that was a joke.
And another 2,600 injured in months after the coup, although numbers are likely higher. In fighting the junta, resistance groups like the URF have found themselves outgunned.
Imagine like engaging a small arms engagement like 10 times a day.
The rebels and the military traded blows for over 2 years, neither side gaining much ground. Then, on October 27, 2023, a dramatic turning point. Rebel forces launched Operation 1027.
Yeah, John. How come you'll generalize anyone but Jews?
Who else do I generalize?
I don't know. Quote Bill Hicks. Cite your sources.
What other groups do I generalize?
People who like Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah.
People who just. Okay. Fair point.
So 1027 is an offensive by the Three Brotherhood Alliance, which comprises the Myanmar National Democratic Alliance Army, the Ta'ang National Liberation Army, and the Arakan Army. So these three ethnic armed organizations have taken over hundreds of military outposts and bases and taken over about a dozen key towns in northern Shan State. And I think they've gained territory at quite a surprising rate. Since the coup, we've not seen anything like this.
And within the space of a few days, several towns, district-level towns, border...
I think they were able to do it, so this is pretty recent. I think it's in the last couple months. Yep, 4 months.
The more strategic locations along the trade route with China.
So we've been covering this gradually for the last couple of years, but now in the last few months, things are starting to change.
These were captured.
Morgan Michaels of the International Institute for Strategic Studies leads the production of the Myanmar conflict map, which shows the state of the armed conflict in the country.
Oh, young-minded says M. Kirby.
So 1027 was launched in northern Shan State along the border with China. The Brotherhood Alliance so far has been able to capture the Kokine self-administered zone in this area, and the other is the Pelong self-administered zone in this area. We also saw intensified attacks on the regime in Sagaing, and then of course one of the members of the Three Brotherhood Alliance, the Arakan Army, has launched its own campaign here in Rakhine State.
To understand the offensive, we have to first understand the ethnic makeup of Myanmar. There are 135 ethnic groups in the country, divided into 8 main ones, each concentrated in different areas.
And there you go, in-group, out-group. Here's all the different ethnic groups. And that's where, like, when people discuss identity politics, and that's pretty much what it is, identity politics when it comes to, like, these different ethnic groups. You see it all the time where, what's that?
No, I miss pepita chips. Pepita chips makes me smile every time they pop into chat.
Where are they?
Well, you may be on Top Chat because Peter Chip says the small dick stream.
Oh, okay. But anyway, back to serious discussion. You'll have people that will be like, "Oh, well, that's not." There's this one dumbass in the DP Discord who's known for being, well, a dumbass. His name's Mitch DC. Trumpster.
Oh well, I wasn't gonna say. I was gonna say, oh well, you don't need to mention their name, but it's too late for that. Unfamiliar with the man, but anyways, continue.
Just call him out.
Well, they're a racist bigot, big Trumpster, and yeah, and it was funny that Trump during his second election cycle where he lost to Biden, that dude popped in. He was kicked from the DP Discord, but he popped back in, and he's like talking shit like it's over, just accept it, like being a smartass, and then Trump lost. And he's one of those people. He'll correct your grammar and act like you're retarded for. Like, he disagrees with people, and he's really smart, but then he doesn't know how to have a discussion without just spamming emojis and GIFs and so forth. And, like, he proves that he's right by calling you a retard, and then it's so stupid he doesn't even need to go into detail. But he apparently is from the Netherlands, and he's, like, talking about, like, how Italians are associated with Mussolini and Germans are associated with Hitler, and I brought up, like, King Leopold. And he brings up some ethnic group that he's a part of in, like, some part of the Netherlands, and it's just 100% of countries you can do that. You don't think you could do the same thing with Italy and Germany? Divide people into, like, 20 ethnic groups, and it's like... Plus, I also told him, like, Hitler, he was from Poland. He wasn't even from Germany.
No, Hitler was from Austria.
Austria, and, yeah. I'm thinking Stalin was from Georgia. Yeah, but...
wow, like Atlanta?
Yeah, the great state of Georgia.
No, but yeah, so he's doing that, and it's just, you can do this, like, when you're talking about territories and the ethnic groups associated with that territory, you can make that excuse for anything. And then it's just, hey, it's not okay to clump him in with King Leopold when he's clumping Italians in with Mussolini. And it's just, you don't think that Italy has, like, 40 fucking sub-ethnic groups that you can clump them into?
The majority are the Bama or Burmese, who live
Hey, it was a flub, you piece of shit. Go fuck yourself, Bill Hicks.
in the
but Pepita said Hitler was Jewish. Yeah, he did try to do a good effort to. I think only like one of his family members, like great uncle or some shit, was Jewish.
I don't think he was Jewish. I don't know.
Yeah, he had Jewish ancestry, but he wasn't like full blown. I want your pennies.
Oh God.
Then there are the Chin, the Kachin, the Shan, the Rakhine, the Kaya, the Karen, and the Mon. Many of these ethnic groups have been fighting for autonomy even before the coup.
Dude, I like pita chips. I didn't even know DP was a thing.
Myanmar has been embroiled in armed conflict for the last 75 years. Prior to the 2021 coup, fighting was mostly concentrated in the peripheries of the country. And then over the last decade, several groups rose to prominence. These are the three Brotherhood Alliance groups.
Ethnic separatist groups are collectively known as Ethnic Armed Organizations, or EAOs. After February 2021, they stepped up their fight against the military. What made Operation 1027 different?
Okay, so we're going back to the American Civil War. If you do have, like, this redneck terrorist group, like, and they want to start an ethno-state, what do you think? They're the ethnos?
Disparate rebels came together.
Yeah, that was kind of bad.
That folks were actually apparently working together.
Where's the womp womp for you, dipshit?
I
always get them.
Okay,
changing the game. The key issue here was that it seemed that these groups that are normally working independently of each other seemed to be working in coordination with each other, and that was a surprise. And was able to, the combined numbers seemed to overwhelm the ability of these local bases and the military to push these guys away.
By the end of November 2023, the Brotherhood Alliance claimed that over 220 military outposts and positions had fallen to the rebels. Perhaps sensing the junta's vulnerability, other resistance groups joined the fray, launching Operation 1111 on November 11.
11.
Operation
I like that.
1111's main objective is to capture the Kaya state capital of Loikop. And so to do this, hundreds,
now,
if not
do you
thousands
think it just happened to be on the 11th of November? Do you think that maybe that was kind of like some, like, motivational stuff, like we'll do it on the 11th instead of the 9th. 11/11.
Of Iraqi fighters
They planned
pulled
it 2
themselves from
months
the rural
late.
areas of the state and converged on the city, launching a major urban assault, and were able to capture about half the city in several weeks.
Then there is one other important faction in the war. When the military took control in 2021, they ousted the democratically elected government, mostly made up of the National League for Democracy. The deposed NLD leaders fled Yangon and reformed as the National Unity Government, or the NUG.
And so they formed their government and are the government exile.
Stoners.
But they had a lot of support, of many of the folks who saw that their future, in a sense, had been robbed, by the actions of the military when they enacted emergency law in 2021.
And from the supporters of the NUG, and armed resistance would coalesce.
These are the so-called People's Defense Forces, which rose up in opposition to the military's power grab. People's Defense Forces are mainly concentrated in the center of the country in an area known as the Dry Zone. This is where the Bama majority lives.
ပြည်သူတရက်လုံးတိုင်းသားပြည်သူတရက်လုံးကလက်မခံဘဲနဲ့ငင်းချစွာဆန္ဒပြရအကြမ်းဖက်နေကိုတဲ့ရရလည်းဆွဲကန်ပြီးပြည်သူလူထုကခုခံတော်လှန်စစ်ငွေဦးတော်လှန်ရေးမှာခုခံတော်လှန်စစ်ကိုရောက်
From the captured city of Loi Khao, 28-year-old Quartet, a leader of the Urban Revolutionary Front, is planning their next move.
Dude, look at them where you guys aren't even looking.
Yeah,
My
I
bad,
am.
dog. Sorry.
Okay,
Work
so
shit.
like I said, they're making ground against this armed or this military where they're being supported getting planes and they're training the pilots from Russia. And with just commercial drones, and look at them.
28-year-old Quartet.
They're working out their tactics and stuff in the dirt. And they're able to deal with the junta. And then, again, look at the parallels with Israel and Gaza. There's nothing else they can do. They gotta, just indiscriminately level the entire fucking Gaza Strip.
A leader of the Urban Revolutionary Front is planning their next move.
Dude, you know what? I like the chat. Yeah, meth is awesome. As long as you get it from your doctor. You need that prescription.
So, John, you're telling me that even though this corrupt government we have makes the good amphetamine so hard to get, you have no respect for these clandestine chemists who provide this service to the unworthy?
Wait, what?
What? I'm saying you're pro meth unless somebody makes it for you. It's got to come from a doctor, John. What about the people who can't afford to go to the doctor to get
It's
meth,
cleaner than find somebody who's like a Walter White-esque meth
I'm just
dealer.
kidding. I'm not like John.
meth.
I'm not pro meth. Sorry.
No,
If meth saved your marriage or built your marriage, good for you. But I'm.
Does it suck? You like the weed. You like all the kiddie drugs.
The NUG and the ethnic armed organizations appear to be
Make sure you have a good dentist if you do the math, because I fucked my teeth up.
inside,
On meth?
cut with different goals and allegiances.
Well, yeah, he calls you to grind your teeth, and your teeth get all uneven.
John does not take methamphetamine. Just to clarify for the record, it's kind of a joke. Well, I don't think John takes methamphetamine. I'm under the impression he has a prescription to some sort of amphetamine that gives him the kick to get through the day with all of his conditions. But just to set the record straight, because John, you're really hard at really not good at sarcasm. So you're probably selling a couple people that you like meth.
Why do they care if I like meth?
No.
Aligned with NUG.
Fair enough.
Well, there's judgmental piece of shit.
Dude,
you
Shaq needs to come back. I'm hungry.
And then there are some who keep quiet about it, but in spirit, aligned with the goals of the NUG. And then there are others who are more interested in safeguarding their own autonomy and are less involved in the contestations between the NUG and the SEC. For the PDFs, there are hundreds of PDFs under the direction of the NUG.
Do you think my house is dirty?
And there are also lots of smaller local defense forces that are inclined to stay in their own area and protect
if you're on amphetamines, oh my god, I never realized until I went to rehab like how much like tweakers actually like they need to do something. And like I heard the term carpet farming, and they're looking for fucking shards, and if they don't get the shards, they just keep like okay, this living room is clean, so they just like fucking just go for it. And I don't know. They just need something to do, and I've never been like that. I don't like uppers.
I see that's why, like, you guys always try to get me to do downers. Uppers are the way to go. They allow you to get shit done.
I'm excited to see how you react to mushrooms, John.
Are you gonna do some coke?
Calm down, John. Calm down, John. No, I plead the Fifth Amendment, and no.
Okay, let's get back on topic.
Is Hunter Biden coming in the meetup?
I don't know. The views are going up. Seems like people like it.
Yeah, the FBI has joined the chat. The DEA has joined the chat.
We're gonna get to the opium market in Afghanistan. Maybe that's the story we should cover next. So we haven't even gotten to 2 out of 3 of the topics in the title.
Nonetheless, according to some reports, the combined NUG and ethnic fighters number over 200,000. This outnumbers the military's 150,000.
Well, it is. It's in the and more.
Groups.
Pretty much all of the groups that are fighting the Myanmar military regime share a common interest in either defeating the regime or at least seeing it significantly weakened or removed from politics. And so that is a unifying common ground across the broad opposition movement in the country.
This common goal has given the resistance success in the recent months. But how long can this last?
Insight, the fractured state of Myanmar.
ကျွန်တော်တို့ကတော်လိုင်းကြီးမှာဘယ်လိုပါခဲ့တယ်လဲဆိုတော့တော်လိုင်းကြီးအာနာသိန်းပြီးအာနာစသိန်းတဲ့ချိန်ကနေစပြီးတော့ဒါလူငယ်PPပေါ့နော်ဒီဘက်ကနေစပြီးတော့ပေါ်ပေါက်လာတယ်
Okay. Bill Hicks says he's going to try to talk everyone into smoking salvia in DC. You won't have to talk very much to me about it. I'm down. I'm gonna be scared as fuck, and I'm gonna be scared I'm just gonna like lose my mind entirely, but I'll fucking do it.
If I'm doing shrooms for the first time, I don't know if I want to do that while on.
No, John should not compound those two, I'd say, and pretty much nobody should, but I don't care.
No,
I like my brain soup stirred every once in a while.
I think Bill made a typo, and it's not smoking salvia, but swapping saliva.
Oh yeah, it's autocorrect.
Names drawn out of a hat by local officials. Young men and women sent to the front line of a war they don't want to fight.
These are the people being drafted by. Maybe that answers your question. Who pushes the button? Maybe it's the people drafted to fight in this war where they're told that maybe their family will be murdered if they don't murder this other family.
The order, announced in February, aims to raise 5,000 recruits a month. This regime propaganda video shows the first batch being welcomed with a military parade. But it's a desperate move by a deeply unpopular army. One that's been losing territory to a rebel advance and struggling to enlist soldiers.
Why do you think they're having a hard time enlisting soldiers? Why do you think the popular vote isn't on the side of this military coup that dismantled the government that was put in place by the popular vote?
To avoid being called up. This was the queue outside the Thai embassy just after the order was announced. These videos were filmed for us by a journalist as he escaped abroad to avoid the draft.
What a coward. If he was a real man, he would have joined the resistance.
It's so the stuff in the chat that Pepita's saying is fine. It doesn't need to be censored. He's just joking.
Yeah, I'm not gonna call out the mod who did do that, but
who did it?
Bryant. Yeah, it was an accident. A slip.
He didn't mean.
You know, it's funny because
okay.
It happens. Because I clicked show at the same time. Bryant must have clicked hide, but I clicked it fast, so I thought maybe I hit it. But it'll switch on you.
Real quick, we got 25 viewers. Everyone hit the like button for us. You gotta like double click the screen. Or click and hold.
On a PC.
Yeah. Give it a like, guys.
I'm glad YouTube did that. That's how every other fucking app works, but YouTube made it so hard to like a stream. But now you can just double tap.
A painful goodbye, but so many in Myanmar now feel there's no choice but to leave.
I don't think you can resist.
Others have chosen to fight back. At a training ground for resistance forces in Karenni State, we meet some of those who've just signed up. Amongst them, Tet Poi. It was a fear of the conscription law that pushed him to join the rebels.
If only they did this like 12 years ago.
What is it that makes you emotional right now?
Alone would have helped. Movie reference.
The regime's attempts at ensuring its own survival are robbing a generation of its future. There's a particularly cruel twist. The military's forcing victims of its worst abuses to fight on its behalf.
You know what? Which generation, like in a country, do you think was the generation that was robbed the most of like its youth or its education due to war?
Baby boomers.
Oh, no, they were born after like World War II.
Well, boomers then.
That baby boomers and boomers.
Wait, no, fuck, no.
The silent generation.
There we go.
The greatest generation. They were the generation that fought in World War II.
Or was that then? What was the?
I'm talking about specific country, not just the generation overall.
I don't fucking know then, because like they might call them something else.
Like Russia in the Russian World War I, the Russian Revolution, and then the Russian Civil War. That triad of conflicts in Russia. What was it? It's like the life expectancy went down to like something like 30 for a guy growing up, for like men in Russia in that time period.
Well, what about when Napoleon tried to fucking take over Russia?
Well, I don't think the younger generation in Russia was dealt with that kind of offset. Like the
what about the French when Napoleon tried to take over Russia?
I don't know. I should do a stream on that where like I forget what that like generation was called in Russia, but it was something where like the average life expectancy for men went down to like 30.
Dressed in army uniforms, these are Rohingya Muslims, Myanmar's most persecuted minority. Back in 2017, thousands of Rohingya were killed by soldiers, a deliberate, horrific policy of ethnic cleansing, sending close to 1 million fleeing across the border to Bangladesh. Now their refugee camps are controlled by ruthless Rohingya armed groups, and they're abducting and trafficking the refugees back into Myanmar on behalf of the regime for money.
They said, "We need you, come with us." When we shouted for help, they pointed guns at us. We were scared, so had to follow them.
2 of their victims agreed to speak to us. One is just 14 years old. We've disguised their identities.
They had like a little...
We are
yeah.
just children. Yeah. We don't want to go. They said, "We have sold you for $2,500 each, so you have to go." I was too scared to say anything, because one guy who complained was beaten with a stick.
This is inside an army camp. You can see large numbers of Rohingya men in military fatigues. One we spoke to was just given 2 days training. He says the Rohingya were to be used as cannon fodder.
So they're getting training from Russia. Russia's been giving them weapons training. They're using the meat grinder tactic. Don't give them training, throw them in the slaughter.
Gave us were old and rusty. They needed oil for cleaning, but they didn't give us any. We thought we were there to fight, but it became clear we were just meant to die on the battlefield.
They said, "We brought you here to use you on the front line. If anyone dies, we won't bury you. We will just dump you in that hole." I cried for my parents. I missed my parents.
This is who the Rohingya are being forced to fight. The Arakan Army, a Buddhist ethnic militia in their home state. It's been capturing towns and villages from the military, part of a nationwide rebel offensive.
Look. Chef's not even paying attention. Dirt's not here. So they just mentioned they're giving them like no weapons or training. So the junta's getting desperate, throwing them in the front lines. And this is who they're being thrown in the fray with.
We will just dump you in that hole. I cried for my parents. I missed my parents.
This is who the Rohingya are being forced to fight. The Arakan Army, a Buddhist ethnic militia in their home state. It's been capturing towns and villages from the military.
So imagine that just lambs to the slaughter. They're deploying all these unarmed troops, running towards that machine gun nest, just getting mowed down. They're taking hints from Russia.
Part of a nationwide
meat
rebel
grinder
offensive.
tactics.
But members of the Arakan army are also accused of being complicit in the abuse of the Rohingya population, now and in the past.
Ooh, there you go.
In towns and villages from the military, part of a nationwide rebel offensive. But members of the Arakan army are also accused of being complicit in the abuse of the Rohingya population, now and in the past.
Yay, identity politics.
Here, a huge crowd allegedly forced out from their villages by the militia, but the Arakan army denied persecuting them. The young man abducted from a camp in Bangladesh told us his captors tried to convince him fighting for the military is in the Rohingya's interest.
They tried to persuade us by saying they are both our enemies. We must pick one side and support them, so we can reclaim our land.
Some Rohingya men appear to be willing recruits.
They're saying
him fighting for the young man abducted from a camp in Bangladesh, the militia, for the Arakan now and. But members of the Arakan army are also accused of being complicit in the abuse of the Rohingya population.
Well, here you go. This is a good example of war crimes on both sides. So these are people who were fighting for the military because they were drafted, and they're of another ethnic group. Don't know how to pronounce it. Begins with an R, Rohingya, and they are just going in, burning their villages. Hey, you're fighting for the wrong side.
Now and in the past. Here, a huge crowd allegedly forced out from their villages by the militia, but the Arakan army denied persecuting them. The young man abducted from a camp in Bangladesh told us his captors tried to convince him fighting for the military is in the Rohingya's interest.
They tried to persuade us by saying they are both our enemies. We must pick one side and support them, so we can reclaim our land.
Some Rohingya men appear to be willing recruits, raising fears ethnic tensions between the Rohingya and the Buddhist majority will explode again. Both victims eventually managed to flee back to Bangladesh, but at least 1,000 Rohingya are believed to have been forced to join the military. Desperate and vulnerable, they're trapped in a conflict that's tearing apart so many different lives.
This.
He was trying to swap the...
Wait, no, Crow. Dude, I like how Dirt's gone and then Chab just gets up and leaves.
And you're
He cries out in agony. A young rebel fighter, badly injured on the front line. Pyotaik San's leg has been shattered by a grenade. The pain is difficult to bear, but despite it all, he's still committed to the cause.
Damn, would you still be committed after your leg gets shattered by an explosive?
In Myanmar, resistance comes
again,
in many different forms.
As soon as it
Yuri
healed,
and Tracy were final year medical students in Yangon when the military seized power 3 years ago.
John, I'm sorry, John.
They left everything behind to work in the
I'm
secret
here.
jungle.
I'm listening.
He
I was
cries out in
listening the
agony.
whole
A young
time,
rebel
John.
fighter,
Well, you
badly
missed
injured on the front line.
This guy had his leg shattered by a grenade.
Pyotaik San's leg has been shattered by a
Oh
grenade.
yeah, sorry I left. I
Pain
needed another
is difficult
beer
to
and I
bear.
needed to preheat my oven because I haven't eaten. I started drinking and I'm like, man, and I got some shrimp tempura going. I'm gonna have to go check on that here in a minute, but I'm listening.
But despite it all, he's still committed to the cause.
Death makes
no sushi involved.
In
Just the
Myanmar,
tempura.
resistance comes in many different forms. Yuri and Tracy were final year medical students in Yangon when the military seized power 3 years ago. They left everything behind to work in this secret jungle hospital, treating civilians and rebel fighters. Dr. Yuri takes us to an operating theatre they've been forced to build underground. They've been hit by airstrikes before in a previous location.
I think they targeted you deliberately?
Yeah, I think it's very obvious that we are the only team situated there, and they airstrike the whole area like multiple times. So we had to stop the operation, and we had to flee underground into our bunkers.
Every day, the young couple fight to save lives with stretched resources. There's no UN presence in rebel-held territory, no major international charities.
What's their name? Solin Girl 69. I'm guessing that's the Cyrillic. But I put it in Google Translate and it says peace now.
Peace now, peace now, peace now. Ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire.
I agree with that.
And the regime isn't trying to win hearts and minds. It wants to terrorize the population into submission. The 16-year-old was walking in his village when he stepped on a landmine. His left arm and leg had been amputated. He's one of Dr. Tracy's
At least it's a 16-year-old and not a 6-year-old.
recent cases.
And it was his left arm and left leg. He's all right now.
Oh, God.
I don't know.
He's
Just
all
cry.
right now.
Quite
oh
a
my
lot.
God.
It's okay. But we have
just
to
gotta...
just to treat those patients. Yeah.
The regime's ruthless attacks on civilians haven't quashed support for the revolution, but they have driven many from their homes. Across this country, you see these ghost towns and villages that are completely deserted. This is Mobier. Resistance forces are now in full control here, but it doesn't seem as if anyone has dared come back yet. There's a fear of renewed fighting and of hidden landmines. Pozor has no protective gear, no professional training.
Jeez, that's a lot.
But he's volunteered for one of the most dangerous jobs you can imagine. Clearing landmines with his bare hands.
My God.
Now,
My fucking God.
You looked at what we saw with the Ukraine. And the thing is, he's doing this because there's kids that are like that other kid that we saw losing his limbs. So, do you think you'd be that altruistic?
No, so talk about a saint, dude. Why don't these dudes get nominated as fucking saints? Because he's just out there literally risking his life every day. So some. Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, fuck.
Well, John, when you told me to look up the Geneva Convention against landmines, so there was like, oh, you can't be trading landmines and handling landmines and whatnot, but it's mostly you can set landmines down, but it is in areas that are for more military zones or operations, and it you can't put them down like around a village or whatever.
Indiscriminately.
Yeah.
So essentially, it's very arbitrary and gray. Where's it a military zone? Where's it a civilian zone? I'm sure they exploit that.
And
legalese.
What did the Ukrainian said? Did he say that Ukraine is the third most?
Yeah, they have one of the largest amounts of mines that are littering landscape.
Yeah, I googled it. Number one is Egypt, apparently.
Ooh. Wonder how that happened.
ခဲ့တာကိုမြင်ခဲ့တယ်။မျိုးလုံးနဲ့လည်းမြင်ခဲ့တယ်တွေ့ခဲ့တယ်ပေါ့။ဒီကောင်ဆုံးဖြတ်ချက်ချတာကတော့ပြည်သူတွေကဘယ်လိုပြောမလဲအရေးတော်ပုံတာအောင်ခဲ့မယ်။ဒါပေမဲ့ဒီမိုင်းတွေကတော့အရေးတော်ပုံအောင်တဲ့ထဲမှာသူကလည်းမြေကြီးပေါ်ပေါ်လာပြီးတော့မှပါသွားမှလည်းမဟုတ်ဘူး။
We follow Pozor as he heads out on his latest mission to a rural road where he's sure he'll find more mines.
ဒီမှာမိုင်းရှိရဆိုတာကဒီညကျွန်တော်လာပြောဒီညမှာလာရှာပြီးကြည့်ပါပြောလို့ဒီမှာလာရှာပြီးကြည့်ရပါတော့။
He walks out into the undergrowth, but warns it's too dangerous for us to follow him.
It's pretty crazy. He's just walking around in a minefield, no protection. If something were to happen, very, very little chance that he'd be able to get any kind of medical treatment.
Minesweeper.
To save his life. I guess he feels if he's not going to do it, then who is?
He often films himself, and with a camera fitted,
he's literally sweeping mines.
He scans the ground, carefully weighing each step.
Scans the ground. I mean, again, these are rebel forces going up against the government, and they're clearing out mines with their bare hands. They're using like commercial drones to deal with like military tanks, armored personnel. They're dealing with like airplanes, like bombers, aerial bombers, and so forth, and yet they're able to take land and territory back for the government. Look at Israel. I think they probably are able to find more inventive means of going after Hamas. They don't result in tens of thousands of kids dying.
Then, amidst the dried shrubs and dusty earth, he spots something and pulls it out.
I would never, ever have seen
He's defused the mine and brought it back to show us.
ဒီလုံးရတော့ဝမ်းလဲဝမ်းတာတယ်ပေါ့ကိုလည်းဝမ်းတာတယ်ပြီးရင်ပြည်သူရဲ့ခြေထောက်တစ်ဖက်ကိုကယ်နိုင်တယ်ပေါ့နော်အဲ့လိုမျိုးပေါ့ဝမ်းတာမိတယ်ပေါ့
He suspects there's more mines out on the path, but his eye is tearing up. He's suffering from a suspected cataract, but finding treatment amidst the war is unlikely.
Now, remember that one video we saw where you had like the butterfly mines, the scatter mines? And kids see them, they think they look like toys. And it's designed where, because they're cheap, you only really need to incapacitate a soldier. So you make it so they can't wield a weapon. It's designed to like blow off their limb. And kids will find it, and they'll end up like losing their arm. And it's just a village of a bunch of kids that are like losing their limbs because there's a bunch of these like little tiny butterfly mines laying around.
Which sucks because they can't have a good baseball team.
Inevitable that at some stage
bad crow.
You're going to get at the least very badly hurt.
တွေးမိပါတယ်ဟိုဒီကောင်စိတ်ကူးရင်နဲ့လည်းခံစားခဲ့ သူကခန်းစားဖို့တယ်ပေါ့နော်ပြက်ခဲ့တော့ကျွန်တော်အဲ့ဒီချက်လောက်အပြက်အတိုင်းနဲ့လည်းဆက်ပြီးတော့ရှာမယ်ဆိုတာလည်းဆုံးဖြတ်ထားတယ်ဆက်ပြီးတော့လုံနေအောင်မယ်ဆိုတာလည်းဆုံးဖြတ်ထားဟောပေါ့နော်ဒီပြည်သူအတွက်ဆိုလို့ရှိရင်ကျွန်တော်အသက်ရှင်နေသေးတော့ဆက်ပြီးတော့ရှာနေအောင်ပါပဲ
It's a heroic personal struggle, but an uphill one.
Well, yeah, like Pepita chips, like why doesn't the America donate one of their anti-landmine tanks to them? Like one of the big things is it's to give something like that to them, they have to ship it out, and they're not the government. So the people who are the government probably wouldn't allow it. So they'd have to find a more. It's kind of hard to smuggle in a tank like that, but it's also because they probably just don't give a fuck because they're not a bunch of white Europeans. And I do think that it's like the media, like when the Russian-Ukraine war happened, it got around-the-clock coverage, nonstop. The whole world's talking about it. But then there's the Tigray war going on in Ethiopia that had the same amount of like casualty count that was collecting. And then this was also generating the same amount of casualties. So at the same time, you have these 3 wars going on that are all just as significant in terms of casualties and collateral. And this and the Tigray war saw little no coverage. Why? Because they're not a bunch of white Europeans. I mean, I'm just going to be blunt. That's most likely what the reason is.
Myanmar is now one of the most heavily mined countries in the world. More than 2 million
now it's one of the most heavily mined countries in the world. So what's the list of the countries with the largest amount of mines?
Yeah, give me a second. I'll Google it.
Yep.
Very demanding.
People have fled their homes, unsure if they'll ever be able to return. Many now live in temporary camps like this. The regime has banned international charities from operating in rebel-controlled territory. Augusta, like many here, is fighting her own battle just to survive.
Look at that rebel. Dude, he's a killer.
He has it in his...
In rebel-controlled
You can see it in his
territory. Augusta,
dude, he's in face paint. He's ready.
Like many here, is fighting her own battle just to survive. Even amidst the pain and uncertainty, the seeds of a parallel state are emerging. There's a new police force, though everyone's a volunteer.
What's happening here isn't just an armed insurgency, it's a social revolution. We've come now to a clearing in the forest where a group of lecturers have set up a makeshift university.
Around 100 students attend classes here in subjects from maths to zoology. The actual university is too close to the fighting, so they're building a new jungle campus.
You see yourself as part of this revolution?
A jungle campus.
It's Egypt, then Iran, third is Afghanistan. Wait, no, the third leading country deployed with landmines. Oh, the third is Afghanistan, Angola, China, and Iraq. They're tied. Cambodia comes in 7th.
Oh, I'm guessing the killing fields, the Pol Pots, the Khmer Rouge probably had something to do with that.
Yeah, and then Bosnia and Herzegovina with 6 million mines.
I believe it's Herzegovina.
Herzegovina. Her vagina. And then Kuwait and Vietnam take the 9th and 10th with 5 million and 3.5 million mines respectively.
I'm
going to do a landmine episode exclusively about minefields.
Shift University.
Around 100 students attend classes here in subjects from maths to zoology. The actual university is too close to the fighting, so they're building a new jungle campus.
What do you think of that, a jungle campus?
You see yourself as part of this revolution?
There's got to be a guiding tour. There's a jungle
In parts of Karenni state, now under stable rebel control, life is returning to some sort of normality.
Where was your fucking womp womp?
Hey, I got the authority.
Resilience, of sacrifice, and of hope. But everyone knows no new future
Why have power if you can't abuse it?
Truly begin until this war ends.
Come on.
Buildings left in ruin. The coastal town of Akha in western Myanmar has been decimated from recent fighting between rebel forces and the ruling military junta.
How many towns on the planet do you think don't exist anymore because they're war-torn towns?
7.
Lots.
Its 20,000 inhabitants paid a heavy price for massive air bombardments from the junta. The Arakan army, one of the strongest components of Myanmar's anti-junta forces, wrested control of the city. Several people have asked for anonymity for the safety of themselves and their families.
They all look the same, so why are we boarding the same?
In the country's southeast,
I knew that was a bad one. Sorry.
What do you say about me?
Retract your statement.
At least, like, when it comes to covering these serious topics, let's try to, I don't know, go a couple minutes taking in the, like, kind of the brevity, the seriousness of what's going on. Let's not...
Brevity, not brevity. Brevity is what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Other militias captured the major border city of Myawaddy, but quickly lost control a few days later.
I'm sorry.
For every loss, though, the rebels have made gains. The junta has ceded direct control of over 86% of its territory since the start of the conflict in 2021, according to the watchdog's Special Advisory Council for Myanmar. As the country remains mired in conflict, is there a way out of Myanmar's civil war? The tide seemed to have turned against the junta in recent months.
The military is losing territories. The other ethnic resistance organizations, ethnic armed organizations, they are gaining power. Territories are becoming independent, and people are refusing to support the military. There is another entity, the National Unity Government, that has democratically elected representatives who are willing to, who should be recognized as legitimate government. So there is hope. There is hope for Myanmar to become democratic again.
Myanmar's military staged a coup against the country's democratically elected government in February 2021. Since then, General Min Aung Hlaing has ruled over the country through the State Administration Council.
This is the dude that look at all his medals and stuff. See all his medals? Yeah, Dirt's not paying attention. Dirt's like, I don't even remember.
I've seen this guy at his medals. Sorry.
He has so much bling, dude. So much bling.
Don't you think he is definitely much more qualified to be president?
After a brutal crackdown on civilian protests, militias loyal to the overthrown government, the People's Defense Force.
The general has like a shit ton of medals, the vice general or the whatever the fuck. It's always just about the bling. And
rose up in rebellion. Meanwhile, various ethnic groups like the Karen people in the south have launched anti-junta campaigns across the country. The latest rebel operations have included Operation 1027 in the northeast, led by the Three Brotherhood Alliance, and another in the southeast, along the Thai-Myanmar border, led by Karen militias. Hundreds of Tatmadaw soldiers were seen surrendering to rebels in May, like this group to the Arakan army, or fleeing across the border to India.
You think we should, I was thinking maybe, going to Ukraine, joining in their fight, filming it, get some footage. I think maybe we should join their cause instead.
Thousands of kilometers of borders and roads have come under threat or have been lost, cutting the junta from lucrative sources of income. It's clear that the junta is struggling now more than ever.
And what that means for them is a loss of course, humiliating loss of face and logistical sort of control. But essentially, it's the loss of control over billions and billions and billions of dollars of trade, both legal, in and out of the country. That country needs a lot of stuff, and illegal, the illicit economy, which is absolutely vast in Myanmar, from drugs to contraband of all kinds.
While the military remains in control of the Burmese heartlands and the country's major cities of Yangon and Mandalay, it has been forced to adopt drastic measures to ensure its survival.
Hard to say that they have any limits right now because it's been 3 years since the coup, and they are showing
if they control all the all the major airports are probably in the city, but still, it's like if the city's roads are all cut off from all the municipalities and districts outside the city, then that might be a way to starve the city officials out. It's like they're probably going to be obstructing any notable traffic, and that might be a logistics nightmare for the the city government.
Reducing it. In fact, they're forcing people to join the military to fight for them and fight against the people of their own community.
The military government enacted conscription in February 2024, forcing young people aged 18 to 35 to join the Tatmadaw with the aim of enrolling 60,000 people every year.
And this has had a deep impact on the young population in Myanmar. We have seen that there's been an exodus of people who've been wanting to flee the country to evade these orders, to evade these conscriptions. Because what we have documented is that the military soldiers are basically ending up at the homes of many of these young people and forcing them to pick them up and taking them to trainings where they're asking them to hold guns and, do forced labor for the military.
As a result, thousands of young people have fled the country, or even worse for the junta, have joined PDF forces outside cities.
What do? Leave the country, join the rebels. Which one?
Can I afford to leave the country?
What?
Some people can't. Can I afford to leave the country? Some people can't.
No shit with the question. I'm saying, what would you do? Like, if you had the options.
Well, I probably couldn't afford to leave the country, so I'd probably have to sit here and fight or die.
Well, the hypothetical is you have the option. You have both options. What do you do?
Well, probably run for my life. Honestly, if I can. I mean, fuck. What am I?
You wouldn't pull the lever.
I got mouths to feed, John. I'm running. What do you mean? Wait. Hold up. Fuck you and your false lever dichotomy. Because no matter what the fuck I would have said there, if I would have said, "Yeah, I'm going to stay there and fight for my country," like, "Oh yeah, you pull the lever, huh? You motherfucker."
တို့ဆုံးဖြတ်မိတာကတော့ညီမတို့လာမိတဲ့တော်တော်များများတော့အဆက်အသွယ်ရှိလားတော်ရသွားမယ်အဓိကသူတို့ရဲ့ဆုံးဖြတ်ချက်ကဒီတော်ရသွားဖို့ပဲသူတို့အဓိကဥတည်နေကြတယ်ဗောလေနိုင်ငံခြားထွက်ဖို့ဆိုတာလေသူတို့ညီမတို့ပဲ passport လည်းမလုပ်ရသေးတဲ့အနေထားဆိုတော့အခုမှအားလုံးတင်ညာနေတဲ့အနေထားဆိုတော့တေချာတာတော့
This is probably the most famous YouTube Ukraine supporter. Who? John Morgan?
မိလောက်တော့လို့ထင်တဲ့နိုင်ငံခြားထွက်ဖို့အတွက်သူတို့ရဲ့ဥတည်ချက်ကဒီတော်ရသွားမယ်လားနဲ့ကြိုင်မယ်ဆိုတော့လောက်ပဲသူတို့ကလည်းနေကြတယ်
Many have tried entering neighboring Thailand, either by a now rarely issued work permit or by illegally crossing the 2,400-kilometer-long border. Thailand fears that fighting along the border may spill over into its territory, like the latest conflicts involving
I do know the current president of Thailand. They've been opening the borders up to refugees.
Militias concentrated along the Thai-Myanmar border. The kingdom has also been forced to respond to an influx of refugees fleeing violence or conscription.
We need to prepare. We need to plan. We cannot just...
I do know they have a monarchy in Thailand, so I don't know if it's their monarch or it's their because like most monarchies are constitutional monarchies where they have like a prime minister or president that also like serves alongside the monarch.
Ignore situation inside Myanmar as an internal affair. The non-interference policy should not be taken.
Have you ever seen The King and I, Shab?
I don't know. Did we watch it together?
No, it's a musical about this like white diplomat from like Britain that goes to Myanmar to see if they're sophisticated enough where they don't need to be colonized.
As a priority.
Should we
the previous
watch that together, babe? Me and you? Want to do that?
I'd say it's okay. It has no redeeming value at all if you're not a fan of musicals. It's kind of like The Sound of Music. It's very similar tone there. I could see you getting bored.
Led by former General Prayuth Chan-o-cha, had long been seen as cooperative with the Tatmadaw. Chan-o-cha himself seized power in 2014 thanks to a military coup.
So there's a natural sort of ideological alignment between the two sort of military-run countries, but there are deeper background relationships between very senior generals on both sides of the border that stretch back many, many decades.
But Thailand's current Prime Minister, Shreta Thavisin, seems to envision another path to peace.
Yeah, but Chab, do you know which country colonized Thailand? Or which European country colonized them?
No.
Oh my god! I was gonna.
We're one of 3 countries not to be colonized by European power. It was Thailand,
I
Ethiopia,
knew it.
And I think it was Liberia. I think Liberia, Ethiopia, and Thailand. They're 3 countries in a unique, never been colonized by a European power club.
Well, Liberia was created by the European powers.
Yeah, I guess it was like a mutual. You could argue that it was a American colony.
That
kind of was in a way, but yeah. What does he say, dude? You serious? Thailand never been colonized, had an empire. Thailand, yeah, we just said that. But here I gotta pee. But France did take over a chunk of their land, so people give Thailand shit because they allied with the Japanese in World War II. But most countries had no fucking clue what exactly was going on, like when it came to like political agendas and stuff with like Nazi Germany and so forth. But they like it made no like it's like no shit. They allied with Japan. Because Japan was annexing a bunch of like territories, like Indonesia, that was colonized by the Dutch. They were annexing like Indochina, like those regions that were annexed by France and Britain. So it's like they promised that they would cede back the land that was taken from them by France. So Thailand definitely had to walk on a lot of eggshells to prevent like France or Britain from coming in, because you had Indonesia that was south of them, and then you had like India, Burma, all those countries that were all like British colonies, and then Laos, Vietnam, and Cambodia were to the east. So they were sandwiched. But I gotta pee, so I'll be back.
I want to watch. I want to watch.
I
want to watch.
And Selena girl.
Selena girl, yeah. You're the greatest. You're the greatest, Selena girl. All right. So everybody hit the like button. Let's try to get the 15 likes, and if you guys want, you can tip and help us with the goal. Here, I'll
Shavisky, how many lady boys do you think are in Thailand's army?
Lady boy. Oh. Lady boy. I don't know. Probably plenty. Dude, just go and have fun. Don't even think about it. Nobody's holding you back.
No, they
living
just
your
skipped
dream.
the whole. They just skipped the whole don't talk, or wait, what is it called? Don't something. Don't talk. Don't tell. Don't. What was it? They got repealed during Obama.
Don't talk. Don't speak.
Or something like that.
Lady boy. Yeah, did you guys ever see that video? Lady boy. Ugh, I hate that you guys don't get the reference.
Oh wait. So it was a person interviewing this Taiwanese chick, and like they asked a question like, "Oh, I'm not a man. I am lady boy," or something like that, right?
Something like that. Yeah, I like the way they said it. Lady boy. My lady boy. That's me, guys. I'm a lady boy. Everyone knows that about me. Duh. I got tits.
What the fuck? Look, I'm gonna just turn my camera off while I enjoy my dinner, bro. I didn't.
No. I'm enjoying watching you. This is great.
That's actually why I had my camera off for a while, because I was eating like a fucking pig.
Wow, can't believe you. Screw you.
So what's going on? What's the update?
We hate you. We hate you, and you're a lady boy.
I think we all know that the current regime is starting to lose some strength. Okay, let me propose you with a different idea. That when somebody's losing, you crush them or you talk to them.
Where's Selena girl from?
I think it's the latter. Yeah, even if they're losing, but they have the power, they have the weapon.
Yeah, Paradox.
Okay, but
Paradox.
if they know they're losing, or weaker than their opponent, maybe it's a time to reach out and make a deal.
The new government
Pin the link that I put in the chat. Lady boy.
Concussive effects of
lady boy.
Stability.
Hey, Shab.
There, and it would like to help Myanmar towards a more democratic future, back on some sort of track, and certainly ending the sort of civil war chaos that's engulfed it. But ultimately, the Tatmadaw has shown it's willing to sink the country into as big a hole as is necessary to survive. So whether Thailand can...
Tens of thousands of predominantly Muslim Rohingya have recently fled the fighting in Myanmar's southwestern Rakhine state and taken shelter nearby
More identity politics.
Bangladeshi border. Some Rohingya said they have started a resistance movement. Al Jazeera spoke to a 27-year-old member of a Rohingya resistance group. He says there are more than 1,000 active members like him operating in 17 separate locations in Rakhine. They're fighting against the military junta forces and sometimes the Arakan Army rebel group.
We train our people inside Rakhine, in the valleys between the mountain areas. There are several of these training grounds. There are many groups and each of them has different training instructors.
This 21-year-old Rohingya recently managed to escape to Bangladesh from a military camp operated by the Arakan Army in Butidong. He's now worried about his family's safety back home.
They forcibly took many young men, including me, from our homes. When we refused, they used weapons to frighten us and threaten to harm our families.
The plight of the Rohingya trapped in border areas remains unknown because of the intense fighting. Recently, authorities in Bangladesh say they're not aware of any new movement of Rohingya towards the country's borders. They also reiterated their stance of not permitting any more members of the ethnic Muslim community to enter its territory. Many wants an immediate resolution to the crisis.
The international community should pressure Myanmar to establish a safe zone for the Rohingyas in Arakan, protected by UN forces.
Gunfire from the fighting in Rakhine State has reached boats near the Bangladeshi territory of St. Martin Island, virtually isolating the island from the mainland for weeks now. Bangladeshi Home Minister has warned of retaliation if the Myanmar military or the Arakan Army continues firing at its boats.
I do think Burma or Myanmar is mostly Christian. And then I know India is mostly Hindu, so that's a part of the globe where Muslims definitely don't have it easy. Is in that region.
We have conveyed our concerns to them. They said if we clearly display the Bangladeshi flag on our vessels, no one will fire at them.
7 years after this conflict began, nearly 1 million Rohingya are stuck at a refugee camp in Cox's Bazar. Many community leaders say a peaceful resolution.
Is where we were going over, like, in India, now that Prime Minister Modi's taken over, and he's part of like a Hindu, like sort of like supremacy like group or Hinduistic like supremacy like party. They've been pretty much using bulldozer politics to go into like Islamic communities, bulldoze their homes, and treat them like horseshit because they're the other. So that kind of identity politics. And it looks like you kind of see the same thing going on here with different Muslim communities that are on the borders of like Myanmar, and they showed that there's a community that's on an island, so it's just not letting any supplies in or out of the island because these people who are Muslims, they're this other group, they need to fight for us, and if they don't, we're going to make it hard for them.
Is not possible in Myanmar without international mediation. Tanvir Chaudhry, Al Jazeera, Cox's Bazar.
But they're Muslim, Shab. What do you think?
I'm Muslim too, Jane.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I just decided to right now. I'm now Muslim, guys. Let that be known. That's why I always keep this hat on.
More.
It's part of being Muslim, I think. I don't know. What's up, Drunken Crow in the chat? How you doing? Long time no see.
Okay, so never mind. So 87.9% Buddhists in Burma.
Mm-hmm.
And Christians are 6.2%. So that's where like there have never been any wars fought over Buddhism, but there have been terrorist attacks, and I know that a lot of the terrorist attacks are like in Burma.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.
I'd say this is queen.
I was thinking that it was, I guess because we saw a bunch of funerals where they had crosses and so forth, but I thought it was something like 50% were like Christian, and then another percent were like Buddhist, and then I knew that they had a notable Muslim. Yeah, 4.3% are Muslim.
An investigation into the Myanmar military government's supply chain shows international sanctions have significantly reduced its ability to secure funds and procure.
See, this is proof that Buddhism isn't about peace. Because Burma's 80-something% Buddhist, and look at all this war going on.
No, but Peter said I wouldn't joke about that.
You wouldn't joke about what?
I think he's talking about me saying I'm Muslim now.
India has the biggest Islamic population in the world. Does it? I mean...
No, Islamic pop in the world. I don't know if it's population or pop means...
Well, I mean... India, do you mean like compared to any other country, like there's a large amount of Indians living in India compared to the amount of Muslims in any other country? I mean, I know like India has like close to like over 1 billion, so, like I think it's like 1.3 billion people living in India, and Or let me look it up. Talk to the chat.
Hi, chat. Hi. Hi, chat. Hi. I'm here. I'm the Shabisky guy.
So the Muslims are 14.2%. So there's 172 million Muslims in India. So that might that's a large number. I know Indonesia is the second most heavily populated country on the planet, and that's 275 million. And then I know Japan has around 100 million. The Philippines have 100 million. So yeah, they probably do have the largest amount of Muslims compared to any other country. And there's 27 or 27.8 million Christians. So, but I do know that because they're a notable minority, they are treated like shit. The ones that live on the border near Pakistan.
Oh yeah, this was a while back. I don't know if it was Pakistan and India or India and China. We were talking about they just have them equipped with batons and sticks.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a case probably 10 years back or whatever where it, like I said, Pakistan, India, or India and China, where they just like beat the shit out of each other with like sticks.
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier. That's happened, I think, a couple times, and it's like China and
yeah, but I mean,
India.
It's completely fine because they didn't use guns, but like people did die.
Yeah, I mean, that particular region, like, is it the Kashmir region? I know that if you go on Google Maps, if you're in Pakistan, that land is marked as being part of Pakistan. If you're in India, it's marked as being part of India. And if you're in China, it's marked as being part of China. Because all three countries lay claim to it. People in Pakistan. So here I'm looking up Pakistan has a population, because I know they're also one of the more heavily populated countries. They have a population of 235 million. So I think they might have a larger Muslim population. So I'm looking for their religious demographics. Talk to the chat, Shab.
Hi, chat. What's up, Doritos? Yeah, the Bible says it's better to live in a desert land than with a...
I don't care what the Bible says.
Quarrelsome and fretful woman. God, what does that first word even mean, Doritos? And what does the second mean? What does fretful mean?
Scared.
Scared?
Fret? Like, is it fret? Scared? Quarrelsome is aggressive. Fretful is I do believe.
So 96% of people in Pakistan are Muslim. So I think Pakistan has a larger Muslim population than India.
Prove it. Prove it, Gene. Yeah. Go there and count everybody. How about that?
Yeah, how many Browns can you find?
Okay. Bad Crow.
Enough, and the ruling military is still adept at evading scrutiny by the international banking system.
I didn't mean
the profile that between the financial years of 2022 and 2020.
They're very
now. Islam is right about women. How's it right about women? I don't know. I mean, I understand that people who I don't like to treat people like they're a hive mind, they're a collective, and I understand that with Christianity. I don't support the Bible. I think there's a lot of unethical things in the Bible, but I feel the same way with most of the creationist faiths. Same thing with Islam. I think that there's some pretty distasteful things in the Quran when it comes to how they think women should be treated. So,
Quran. Karen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it
prices of weapons and military supplies decreased by a third, from $377 million to $253 million. And exports from Singapore dropped by 90% to $10 million after a UN report last year prompted the government here to clamp down on financial transactions linked to state-owned Myanmar banks. But military exports from Thailand, now those have doubled to $120 million, making Thailand the biggest source of Myanmar's military supplies purchased through the international banking system. The UN, though, found no evidence that the Thai government itself was complicit in these transfers. The Myanmar government has been adapting to sanctions on its state-owned banks. It had relied on Myanmar Foreign Trade Bank to purchase military supplies from abroad. But after the US sanctioned it...
ever fucking work? I mean, I do know that they do definitely have a noble effect on a country's economy and try to, like, I guess, pressure the government into giving in. So maybe they play a role, and I guess I could see how they maybe like speed up the process of like some kind of peace deal. But it's kind of like we said, the issue in West Africa with the ECOWAS countries, where Niger and like 2 other countries ended up being like their governments were like usurped by coups. So Nigeria and all the other ECOWAS countries are now going to war with Niger and the other 2 countries that were dismantled due to the coups, because they've noticed that the last 2 times sanctions didn't work at all. So sanctions never seem to work, so what else are they going to do?
MICB last year, the government has shifted many functions to the unsanctioned Myanmar Economic Bank. MEB processed more than $1 billion in outgoing payments in the financial year 2023. The United Nations is asking countries to shut down MEB's international banking access and to take more coordinated action against all of Myanmar's state-owned banks. International institutions have told the UN that Myanmar has been using a variety of techniques to avoid transaction monitoring activities. Earlier, we spoke to Tom Andrews. He's UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in Myanmar. He makes the case that sanctions on Myanmar's military government must still be stepped up.
Chad, do you have any opinions on the sanctions?
No. I don't have much of that. I think we need to stop sanctioning
governments
people.
sanction these banks, particularly Myanmar Economic Bank, that all countries follow suit, so it's a coordinated.
Well, the problem is that, like, I don't know, if you sanction a country, sometimes it just, if the government is fascist and corrupt, they don't fucking care. Sanctions aren't gonna, and it makes it a lot worse for the fucking people. So, I can understand if it's, like, the less corrupt a country is, the more likely they are to yield to sanctions, because it's like, I guess they have more bureaucrats to be like, hey, look at the kind of negative effect it has here. They have more people to vote for, okay, let's just sign some agreement. But when it's like an autocratic totalitarian government, they don't give a fuck no matter what. So a lot of times sanctions don't really do a good job getting them to cooperate.
Effort of
and usually it's because in like authoritarian countries, dictatorships, it's much more catered to the 1% even than it is in the United States. So, like, a lot of times in, like, more authoritarian countries, the only roads that are built are the roads to, like, the capitals and stuff where all the industry is. And that's why they don't care about establishing any sort of, social infrastructure in any notable population centers outside of where, like, it's like Pyongyang or in North Korea. It's like, that's enough to give the dictator their, like, cushy little fucking palace. And as long as they're content, that's it. They don't give a fuck about the lives of all the other people in the country. So if you give sanctions, it's like, it's not going to affect the lifestyle of that rich dictator. It's pretty much going to, like, starve out all the fucking innocent people.
And that banks stop doing business, stop conducting transactions that involve any Myanmar state bank. As far as the impact on the economy, it's a very important point. And
well, China and Russia
but sitting
are
in the
going to
audience
support
listening
them.
to Xi Jinping's address was former Myanmar President Thein Sein. He is in Beijing for an official visit. It is his first foreign trip since the military seized power in Myanmar 3 years ago. No official discussions with Chinese authorities have been confirmed, but Thein Sein, who ruled Myanmar for 5 years up until 2016, did meet China's ambassador yesterday. China's embassy in Yangon said the two discussed the situation in Myanmar and bilateral cooperation. The visit comes as ties between China and Myanmar's military have been going downhill. Beijing has been angered by the army's failure to crack down on online scam compounds in Myanmar's borderlands. Now, the scam...
Oh, so that's the thing that's pissing off China.
Centers
so they mentioned earlier, so we were watching documentaries from a couple months back, that like China and Russia, they're big backers. Russia mostly giving them like the bomber jets, but here it's like, yep, China's mad with all the online scammers from Myanmar.
Staffed by Chinese citizens, many of whom were trafficked. China's economic interests have also been hampered by
human trafficking.
Army's failure to crack down on online scam compounds in Myanmar's borderlands. Now, the scam centers are staffed by Chinese citizens.
Compounds.
Many of whom were trafficked. China's economic interests have been scam centers by the Army's failure to crack down on online scam compounds in Myanmar's borderlands. Now, the scam centers are staffed by Chinese citizens, many of whom were trafficked.
So they're staffed by Chinese slaves.
China's economic interests have also been hampered by fighting between Myanmar's army and rebel forces. CNA's Leong Wai-kit tells us more about the significance of Mr. Thein Sein's visit to Beijing.
Well, do you think this is do you think China is putting out a bunch of propaganda to make the like junta look bad, claiming that they're enslaving Chinese citizens? Like, this is what I'm saying. It's like, maybe when China's coming out and being like, stop like trafficking our own citizens, maybe that's a sign that maybe you're on the wrong side of things if you're supporting the junta.
The very fact that Thein Sein is in Beijing shows that there's Myanmar presence in Beijing, and perhaps it goes against reports of maybe China being fed up with Myanmar for not being able to control online scam centers or unable to stop fighting near the borders. The fact is that Myanmar embraces China's principles of peaceful coexistence because it uses similar language, stressing the need for sovereignty and territorial integrity, stressing the need for non-interference. Myanmar uses such language to rebut any people and any party that slams it for war crimes or human rights abuses. But
Gene having a conversation with himself, well, that's because no one else wants to participate. And
I'll be straight with you, John. I'll be straight with you, John.
We delve into the possibility.
I've been finding my window here, but to be honest, I promised Danny I wouldn't be up when the sun comes up.
Extremely significant because
I'm shut the fuck up and get out of here, John.
You're gonna leave us?
I'm thinking I might, because you're right, John. I'm not really adding anything right now, and I promised Danny that I would be in bed before the sun comes up, and I'm running out of time to make good on that promise. But yeah.
Well,
possible pizza, gentlemen. Yeah,
He's cool guy.
Hold on, Crow wants to talk to me. Let's not make goodbye that awkward. What is it, Crow?
Danny's still up, right?
No.
Oh well. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, well, moot point. Good night, everybody. See you next time. Pasta la pizza and all that good shit.
Loopin' pig.
President. He's not even active in the junta leadership. And to some, this might be China's signal to Min Aung Hlaing that he's not regarded as Myanmar's leader, even though the Chinese officials would engage Myanmar junta officials and ministers, inviting them even to China. The other significance is that Thein Sein, when he was president between 2011 and 2016, he had blocked China's ambitious project, the Midson Dam. The fact
Next vid.
Look
at her little pink Crocs. I don't know, she seems a bit too young to be wielding a rifle and fighting on the front lines in a war.
You can't fight a war in Crocs.
Well, I do think the RFA should be like, hey, if you want to support in the war effort, I think you're a bit too young. I don't think it's ethical for us to enlist you, even if she's doing it willingly. I think maybe it's like, hey, if you want to support, we can give you a job with, like, I don't know, cooking or like documentation, something that's not on the front lines.
Making better shoes.
What do you think, Shad? Would you want to join the war if you were like 12 years old?
Hell yeah. I'd be excited.
I don't know. It's a bit unsettling.
The arrival of the USS Theodore Roosevelt in South Korea, the nuclear-powered aircraft carrier reaching port just days after Russian President Putin's warning about arming North Korea. ABC's Britt Clinton is in Hong Kong with more on this. Good morning, Britt.
Good morning, Rhiannon. Yeah, the USS Roosevelt arrived in Busan for pre-planned drills with South Korea and Japan. The countries really appearing to ramp up military training in the face of growing threats from North Korea. Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin meeting Kim Jong-un in Pyongyang, agreeing that they would help each other out in the event of aggression. Now, the Roosevelt's scheduled stop in Busan comes...
Dude, is Russia going to send troops, or going to put troops on North Korean soil once things escalate there and North and South Korea are fighting?
Okay, so if the world goes to shit, I think South Korea will help Russia as far as troops, but Russia would just be
South Korea? You mean North Korea?
Yeah, North Korea.
God, Crow.
But I think Russia would just be like, oh yeah, go piss off North Korea if shit hits the fan.
We've made it to the second topic in the title of the video.
Accompanied by Taliban police, we're descending to what looks and smells and feels like hell. A city of the curse beneath the city of Kabul.
This has been going on since we invaded in, like, what, 02?
A place where they're too far gone even to weep about their fate. A collection of souls lost to the darkness of addiction.
Well, the thing is, like, in Pakistan, it's gotten a lot worse now that we backed out. So it's like half of their GDP was being generated through, or overhead. It was like 60% was being generated by foreign aid, mostly through like Western countries. So then when we backed out and the Taliban took control again, we just gave sanctions and stuff, which again fucked their economy up even more. The sanctions. Then we cut off all foreign aid. That's 60% of their GDP gone, and then the Taliban don't allow women to work. So that's 50% of the like 30-something% that's left. So their economy is fucking screwed. So now they're really indulging in the opium market, because that's pretty much the only source or the only thing that they can like make any sort of like notable national profit off of.
This is life under the Russo-Ukrainian bridge.
Afghanistan, Bill Hicks.
Most are opium addicts, but an increasing number are dependent on methamphetamine. He's not praying as Muslims should, but searching for a tiny fragment of his drug. The bundle by the sewer is a living, breathing human being, although he may scarcely know that himself. The Taliban says it will end Afghanistan's dependence on drugs, both the individual addicts here and the country's reliance on the export of opium. But it's not so easy. They destroy one stall and then another pops up. A recitation of the policy replaces...
Well, now the Taliban, so I tried to find videos covering this from... So this is 1 year ago. The Taliban has lifted the restrictions, so I don't know how to pronounce his name, but they actually did like a POW swap with the U.S. So he's known as the Pablo Escobar of the Middle East, or the Pablo Escobar of Afghanistan. And he's this Taliban militant who's known for the like black market opiate trade. And they recently released him, and he's back in Afghanistan helping them with the opium market.
Yeah, but what? As soon as we take him over, what animals is he going to leave? Pablo Escobar left a shit ton, or 8 hippos in the Amazon. Yeah. So what animals are...
It's kind of a non sequitur. I don't think he's associated with this at all.
To a problem that is...
You're a non sequitur.
With Pablo Escobar isn't his like exotic pets. It's his the fact that he's associated with the notable drug trade.
Previous Afghan governments.
But you know why opium's the drug or the crop that they're trying to exploit here, Shad?
Why it is? I don't know why.
Because it's like desert, like arid climates, and the
it
like
grows there easy.
Yeah, it's very easy to grow, and kind of like any environment, so it's very versatile in that way. And there's a notable water shortage in Afghanistan, not just because it's desert, but because of like the issues that the air will see. And because of that, that's pretty much the only notable like cash crop that they can try to utilize. I know Ukraine wheat was the big thing that the Ukraine produced. The United States, it's corn. Corns are a big crop, and throughout much of the Middle East, it's cotton.
400 miles south, the Taliban show their presence in Lashkar, capital of Helmand. More than 80% of the world's opium for heroin is grown here. The globe could represent...
Wait, 40%? Now, recently I read an article, it was like 80%. So I think it's gone up. The black market, like opium market, has gone up to like 80%. So I guess
provinces international.
Pablo Escobar, he's doing a good job. I guess it went from 40 to 80.
National significance.
Shut
the
up,
Taliban have knocked off the heads of the birds on the monument, images of living things, and threatened to be just as ruthless with the opium trade.
When the British were in Helmand, based here in Lashkar, they tried and failed to get rid of opium.
Was that
The Taliban did have some...
Wait.
Is that a truck slash motorcycle?
It's probably a Toyota.
Images of living things are banned,
well, here,
and threatened to be just as ruthless
says.
with the opium trade.
When the British were in Helmand, based here in Lashkar, they tried and...
I barely hear her. They said when the British were here...
failed to get rid of opium. The Taliban did have some success back in...
Did you know what big military power tried to take over Afghanistan? United States.
Russia.
Egypt. Before Russia.
Oh, before Russia. Shit, I don't know that.
Britain. There were 3 Saxon-Afghan wars. 3 of them. Where when Britain was the big global power, they were not able to take Afghanistan. Russia, the Soviet Union, not just Russia, the Soviets tried to take Afghanistan. They failed. America tried to take Afghanistan. They failed. Do you think any country in the future should try to take Afghanistan, or do you think it's kind of a...
No, geographically, it's very...
Yeah.
You're fucked if you want to take it. Try to take it over.
Well, the problem with what the United States was trying to do is it's like... What happened is they scattered, they went and fled in the mountains and stuff. So it's just, okay, you got to hunt them down. And it's kind of like in those kind of scenarios where it's kind of like guerrilla warfare. It's like what made things difficult in Vietnam, where it's like going to the jungles, finding the tunnels where they're residing in. It's like, okay, that is something where no matter how advanced your military is, it's quite the feat to, like, when it comes to the intel, finding out where all the different tunnels, all the different caves and stuff that they're living in. Now, the thing is, if you have a military presence there, they're not able to get in. So you might not be able to find them and annihilate their units and stuff that are hiding out in these tunnels or caves. But if you have your, and that's what the United States in, you also Britain, France, because we had our Western allies there as well that should also be held accountable. But if you have your bases and your presence there, then they're not able to get into the cities, the major population centers where most of the GDP is coming from. And in order to do that, we would have had to have our soldiers there for decades. It's pretty much necessary. And that's clearly what they were trying to do, is that they were trying to just have these military bases that were there to just make sure that they stay in the mountains while the cities and stuff, the major population centers develop. And that's what happened in Cambodia after the Khmer Rouge, Vietnam fought back the Khmer Rouge. They hid out in the jungles, and Pol Pot, I think, just recently passed away. But he was out there in the jungles for decades. And it's the point is, it's like, okay, it's like you have control of the military. The Khmer Rouge dealt with major casualties and stuff, so they're lower in numbers, and so it's this war of attrition. That's kind of all you can do.
John, you said recently passed. No, Pol Pot died in 1998.
1990. Well, that's kind of recent.
Well, compared to us, yeah.
Yeah.
But
the point is, that happened in the 60s or the 70s, so a lot of people kind of think that he died during that dispute. So after the Khmer Rouge, like what was seized from like control of the government, so a lot of people think they don't know that he actually fled into the jungle and he was out there for quite a while.
In the 1990s, and they say they're going to do it again, get rid of it. But it's very hard to see how they can manage to do that if sanctions remain in place. They need money, and what alternative income will they have?
And here we go, the same. So a lot of this is Russia recently has gotten rid of or removed the Taliban as a terrorist group. So now they are the government of the region. They went from a terrorist group or whatever, you could say it's a terrorist state, but the point is now they are the state government. So, like, what do you do? Like with any country, they need that basic, like, access to the global economy. And people like the United States doesn't negotiate with terror. And I mean, a lot of it is butthurt feelings over 9/11. The Taliban was the organization by 9/11, and there are Taliban officials that are running this country that were people, operatives behind 9/11. So it sucks, but this is kind of a scenario of the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. So you have all these kids and people starving, and it's like, okay, well, it's like they kind of need that basic fucking income just so like people in the country can get by. So do you think like the sanctions of like completely and totally cutting off trade to Afghanistan, do you think that's ethical? Yeah.
Wait, are you talking about like the import export of heroin?
No, not like the point is that they have to rely on exporting heroin and relying on this black market industry because it's the only option they really have. And this is something that
if it's the only option, then fucking go for it. But we didn't shoot down these farmers. I mean, we could have. I think they probably did.
Well, they're not. We shoot down the farmers. We're talking about how it's like they pretty much the only market they can rely on is growing opium because all other markets are fucked because anything outside of like agriculture is relies on having access to the global market, which it's like we've kind of cut them off to. And it's I don't know. Any opinion, Shad?
Isn't it weird to like, I don't know, they're too poor to be able to leave and find somewhere else where it's better to be.
Yeah, why don't they just move?
Right? Like it's
that's such a poverty paradox.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like they it would be great if they could just leave and go like get citizenship somewhere like where we live and get it would be a lot better.
But we need to ban the Muslims.
But like they're too poor to fly all the way here or to a better place. It's going to cost a lot of money, and they're too poor to they're barely getting by.
Well, the issue is that it's like the invisible hand of economics. And this, like, where you see the opium trade, where if there's a demand, somebody will supply it, so they have to exploit that. But it's also, I forget what the economic term is, so essentially when you create an employment desert and stuff, it kind of becomes, it's something paradox, it becomes anarchy, so it becomes like a crime state. So whether it's like Somalia, the pirates, the cartels in certain South American countries, or like terrorists, ISIS, Al-Qaeda in certain Middle Eastern countries, when you create some kind of employment desert where there's pretty much no industry and it's a vacuum of any trade, what you start to see is that the youth in that country pretty much have nothing to do but join these criminal organizations. And then those criminal organizations gain a monopoly on all sort of trade and industry in the country, and then that criminal organization becomes the fucking government. So it's like, if you want to, I guess, eliminate this criminal organization, whether it's a cartel, whether it's a terrorist group, whether it's a bunch of pirate, whatever it is, maybe you need to help stabilize the economy in the region and improve the job market in the region. You got to do more than just have military bases to keep them out. And I don't think the United States did a good job in that department, where it's like, what are the, so like Al-Qaeda, ISIS, whatever the terrorist group is, they're the biggest gang in town. So you have an area where there's no fucking work, there's no fucking employment. It's just poverty. So it's like kids in poor areas. What do? You just go out, you just do fucking drugs. Like there's not much else to do. And that's what's happening there. What do? You join a gang, you join ISIS, you do fucking heroin. That's a universal effect that this kind of scenario, like, or this kind of like economic sort of vacuum creates. And maybe if we're going to have military bases there, then maybe a lot of the money should have been invested in building schools in the cities, building roads in the cities, like making sure that like maybe opening up universities in the country, making sure that like all the younger generation growing up there have access to, I don't know, move to other countries to get an education at universities there and then move back and take those skills and stuff and help build help develop and improve the industry in their country. But I don't think we did a lot of that. I think it's just like, hey, we're going to have a bunch of military bases to keep them out and not get involved beyond that. And I think that's the big mistake with fighting the Taliban. And it's like the war on drugs. It's maybe if they legalized cocaine and all these different drugs, then, the cartel, that's where they get all their profit. It's the invisible hand. If there's a supply or if there's a demand, someone's going to supply it. It's guaranteed. So if you make it legal and it's regulated, the drugs are tested. They're like, whether you think heroin's bad for you or you think cocaine is bad for you or not, it's better that people are getting it from tested and regulated like sources as opposed to getting it off the street. And then you can tax it. People make it benefits the taxpayer, it benefits the country's economy, it being taxed. And then it's not a drain on the taxpayers because people aren't being locked up in prison for it. And then people that are doing it that are addicts can get help. And they're more likely to come out and get help. And even if they don't get help, at least the shit that they're taking is cleaner and you're much less likely to get addicted to it. Because it's not likely to be laced with things like fucking PCP and shit. So, but that's the thing. So it's like, maybe if we just, instead of investing all this money, hiring all these DA agents to go into Colombia, to go into Honduras, to invest in this all these investigations, trying to find out who the cartel members are. Maybe if we just legalized and decriminalized a lot of these drugs, it would cripple the market. And it's like, again, here, it's the same thing. How do you deal with these terrorist groups? Maybe if you help develop create some level of stability and help generate a notable economy in the country, maybe all the people in the country are like, nah, we're good. We don't need to join the Taliban. We don't need to join ISIS. We prefer the system we got with these elected officials and the towns that we have with all the commercialism and all the markets that we have. The private and social sector that's been developed gives us plenty of things to do. We don't need to join the biggest gang in town. That's ISIS or the Taliban.
Last month saw another bumper poppy harvest, even though only a few weeks earlier the Taliban
I
had
joined ISIS back in 2012.
announced that cultivating poppy was now.
I think you're strawmanning me, Bill Hicks. I don't think it's that simple. I don't think it's as simple as, oh, you just make it legal. I think, yeah, they're probably going to try to, they have a foothold in the government. They might try to do as much as they can to keep it illegal. But, I mean, in the long run, what are they going to do? Like, they're not going to be able to make the money off of the product because it's legal. It's like, why buy weed from a street dealer when you can just get it from a dispensary? There's always going to be somewhat of a black market, somebody brewing alcohol and selling it to their friends, but it's like, how many people are trying to find people that are brewing alcohol and distributing it when you could just go to a liquor store? I mean, I think it's the same thing. If you can just get Coke from like dispensaries, Why do you need to rely on some like illegal black market supplier?
Well, I think it's about quality, because you
think it would be better quality if it's distributed by drug dealers as opposed to like on the streets as opposed to
no.
Okay.
So if it's corporatized, it might be less. I mean, I don't smoke, so it could be less THC, and you're spending more because it's legal. Well, you can go to your former dealer or current dealer and getting, whatever you were buying to begin with, and it has more THC.
Well, Bill Hicks, you're saying because the dealer will sell it for less, but how much less are they going to sell it for? And I mean, the same thing applies with alcohol. Like, don't you think alcohol probably, if you get the brands from the store, the commercial brands, it's probably gonna taste better, be a better quality than your average Joe that's brewing it in their backyard. Same thing with like weed, Cheb. What do you think on this? As opposed to it being legal or illegal, what would you prefer to do? Go to a dispensary or?
Regardless of all this, it's going to mess with their business dramatically, obviously, if it becomes legal.
And it's going to make it easier to
destroy their business. It's going to cut it in half or something like that. And that's going to make some sort of effect on it. It's kind of like what we were talking about earlier about making it illegal for people, maybe to companies to hire illegal aliens, and then systematically people aren't going to want to illegally come over here as much because people aren't going to want to hire them as much. It's just going
Here's the thing, though.
But that doesn't mean that nobody's going to come over illegally anymore. It's still going to happen.
Yeah, you're being black and white, Bill Hicks. We're talking about nuance here.
Yeah, that was my point of bringing that up.
Yeah. But with the illegal immigrants, so it reminds me of that. So when they're acting like, hey, like they commit crimes, and we showed the statistics that they're committing less crimes on average than legal immigrants or natural born citizens. A lot of the crime that does happen due to illegal immigration, which is a vast minority of people who do migrate to the country illegally, is drug smuggling. And of course, Americans do that as well. You got a bunch of stupid teens where it's like they'll strap the drugs on their fucking chest and try to get them to fly across the border and stuff undetected. But a lot of the crimes that are tied to illegal immigration are drug smuggling or drug peddling. So maybe if the people on the right that really hate illegal aliens, maybe if you decriminalized these drugs or legalized all these drugs, maybe those crimes would start to go down quite a bit if you hate those kind of crimes so much.
What's wrong with Drunken Crow?
I don't think there's anything wrong with him. He was just leaning back.
You didn't like something I said, Drunken Crow?
No, I just needed a mini nap.
Oh, okay.
Illegal. They make the cuts to extract the precious sap. The price is increased,
the sap.
and local Taliban mullahs tax the crop, so may be reluctant to carry out central government orders. Thousands of Afghans travel to Helmand as seasonal labourers. Even children help mix up the sticky sap before it's processed further. No other crop provides such employment possibilities, so here they fear the Taliban edict that the trade must end.
It's kind of weird because when we watch some stuff like this, it's almost like looking at looking through I don't know, it's like looking back in time, it's kind of weird, to think that people kind of still live this way in the world.
Well, it's over 70% of the world's population lives on less than $10 a day. 2 billion people worldwide. live in what the UN considers to be slums, and that's the UN standard. So a lot of people, their standards for what a slum is might be broader than what the UN considers. And then I think it's something where like 70% of the world's population doesn't have access to flushable plumbing. And then a third of the world's population doesn't, or a fourth doesn't have access to electricity.
Well,
fact check, Crow. Cross-reference what I'm saying.
Oh
now,
my.
But
no, flushable plumbing is that cultural or just like?
Well, some of it's cultural, but still, it's something like a fourth don't have access to electricity, and then it's like I said, like 2 billion, so that's another like 1/4 of the world's population that live in slums. So yeah, it's pretty bad, and I know it's like a third of the world's population is illiterate, but apparently in America, it's like 14% of Americans are functionally illiterate. No way, wrong bid.
You like to bring that up.
Well, I bring it up because a lot of people aren't really mindful of that. Like that's a decent chunk of it's like over 1 in 10, like so like 14-15%, that's like 1 in 6, 1 in 7. So that's a notable chunk of the people you're interacting with are functionally illiterate where they can't fill out a form. And those are people that are functionally illiterate. Then you have people where it's like a large percentage of people, if you give them a set of instructions, they're not able to like read through, like they're not able to follow through with like instructions written above like an 8th grade level. And that's sort of a notable problem. It definitely affects our economy that so many people aren't able to follow through with tasks if they need to read instructions that it's like a fifth of people or like a third of Americans read or write at a below 5th grade level. It's pretty bad. And I mean, it's something where the reason I bring it up all the time is because it's something that a lot of people don't fucking talk about that probably should be discussed more. Maybe I should do an entire episode, entire stream on our educational system, because our educational system's fucking terrible. And so many people are leaving school where it's like they like went to high school, they passed the classes on paper, but then it's like they're finishing school with like an 8th grade, 7th grade level of education. If they're tested, that's where they're testing.
They shout, opium, and they're off to the market.
Okay, so
everyone in the area is dependent
subject. I will not go on about that. Okay, we're on a different subject.
The drug trade, hash and methamphetamines, but primarily opium, which accounts for 7% of Afghanistan's GDP, and that proportion will grow now, as so little aid is coming in. The big test will come in October. Will the Taliban prevent the planting of the next poppy crop? Or will they decide that they have too much to lose, and despite the edict, the Afghan economy will grow ever more addicted to drugs?
And it's a revolving door.
Guess who's the greatest drug producer who has ever lived? Well, Pablo was perhaps the most popular, but the title goes to Haji Jumaan. He was
Haji Jumaan.
Jumaan.
Well, I think it's pronounced like an H.
As of 2017, producing
I don't know.
53% of opium in Afghanistan, the world's single greatest source of illicit drugs, producing percent, but the title goes to Haji Jumaan. He was, as of 2017, producing 53% of opium in Afghanistan, the world's single greatest source of illicit drugs, producing more than Colombia, Mexico, and Myanmar combined.
See, Colombia, Mexico, they got some work to do.
Born in 1955 in Afghanistan's Nimros province, he could have been anyone's uncle, really. Always in shawarkamis and
fucking weed from one of those hippos.
Enjoying his kebabs and always holding his tasbih. But here is a mystery. Arrested multiple times by the US, he was always released with no charges. While America has spent more than $1.7 billion in fighting the heroin trade, the Khan runs free. The story resembles the plot of a Netflix series involving a DEA agent, the Taliban, the British Special Forces, and the CIA, and explains partly the collapse of the Afghan government in 2021. Here is for you the story of Haji Jumaan.
I'm hoping this music doesn't trigger anything. But here, Shab, we've been going for less than 2 hours in this stream. 888 views.
You're the greatest.
Woo! Dude, they make a breaking, like, instead of Breaking Bad, they need to do one about Like this dude, the opium dealer in the Middle East. A lot of these like big criminals, you think like Lieutenant Barbecue, like, wow, this guy's kind of cool. And it's like, oh, he's going into like neighborhoods and burning them down and lighting people on fire. And then you feel bad. It's like, oh God, why do all these cool criminals always do criminal shit like mass murder?
Do you think they do the smooth criminal before they murder a family?
No.
Streaming service amplifying Muslim stories and filmmakers. If so, you want to check out our
family,
experiment in 2001.
Okay, I don't want to play this video. Next vid. There's a lot of
Mr. Haqqani, Sirajuddin Haqqani, welcome to the program. Now, you have only recently shown yourself publicly. Here, it was at a police passing out parade.
Yeah, and I know, like, when women do journalism in a lot of these countries, it's like they have to. A lot of them are like Christian women, atheist women, and stuff, and they have to wear like a hijab.
This is your first proper interview. Why now?
Based on the current necessity, and because of this necessity, the local and international community had concerns. Based on the concerns that existed on local and international levels about a number of individuals who do not want to be blamed for implementing the commitments that have been made with the international community.
The only thing we really know about your thoughts now is something you wrote for the New York Times back a couple of years ago at the beginning of negotiations with the Trump administration. You wrote then that I'm confident, and you said once this territory is liberated, we together will find a way to build an Islamic system in which all Afghans have equal rights, where the rights of women that are granted by Islam, from the right to education to the right to work, are protected, and where merit is the basis for equal opportunity. I want to know whether you still believe that.
The commitments that have been made. The situation at the time was a situation of war. The opposing parties have provided a very bad picture. And
so, now, here's the thing. I had to Google this to cross-reference it. So, I do know in some denominations of Judaism, and of course people interpret it however they want, the cult to the blank page, but you're aware of like yarmulkes and stuff. God's not supposed to see the top of your head. It's like a sun cap. And women, a lot of times in Judaism, will wear scarves. So, and I was thinking about this because the journalist wearing a hijab. So in Christianity, it does say in the Bible that women are supposed to be covering. So if people interpret the Bible in a literal manner, then women should be wearing veils. They should be wearing like headscarves and stuff. So this is another example where we look at a lot of people from the West look at like women in the Middle East that are like appealing to like the scripture. And it's like, oh God, they're so backwards and stuff. But then they want to be homophobic and they want to like take the Bible in a literal manner in certain areas. But then what about in areas where it says you're supposed to be dressing up and you're supposed to be covering up? And
well, fuck. No. Well, why? Oh, God seen Eve in the Garden of Eden naked as fuck. And then they...
Well, of course he's seen everyone naked. He made everyone. Dumb fuck. God.
Well, then fucking Eve ate an apple, and then they're like...
Is that an apple? It's the forbidden fruit.
Yeah, fruit. Technically, yeah, it is a fruit. It wasn't specified. And wasn't a serpent as well.
Fruit is connected to the forbidden fruit, therefore, like, fuck pork, like, not eating pork. No one's allowed to eat fruit now.
But, like... Yeah, the Garden of Eden, God seen them. They were fucking plain ass fucking naked until fucking...
Look at what happened. They were living the nudist lifestyle and they damned us all to sin, so...
And then all of a sudden, God's like, I don't want to see tits now. I don't want to see tits. Like, what?
Now, do you think... What do you think about, like, a nudist state? Do you think maybe it's antiquated, having everyone walk around wearing clothing? Do you think maybe what the hell? If a guy wants to wear a dress, let them wear a dress. If somebody wants to walk around completely naked in the nude, shouldn't they be allowed to go to the grocery store in the nude? Just go.
For sanitary reasons, no. If there's a community that is,
hey, dogs are allowed to walk around naked.
Dogs?
Yeah. Why do people walk around like walking their dogs? We don't make our dogs wear clothes, or cats. Cats walk in their own shit and they're allowed to walk all over the furniture.
They haven't eaten the apple or the forbidden fruit. And apparently Young-Minded has seen me naked before. That's weird.
Now, if businesses are allowed to say, hey, no shirts, no shoes, no service, can they say no hijabs, no service?
Yes. Fuck, what? It wasn't in America. I think it was in like the UK or Australia where I think it was beach attire where it was like
that was France. Was it the burkini?
Oh yeah, there we go. France. Yeah.
Well, when I say no hijabs, it means that if you're not wearing a hijab, you're not permitted to enter. So how much are they? I know it's illegal to discriminate based on sex. So you can't sit there and say that only men, only women have to cover up to this extent. But what extent can you require somebody to cover up? So it's technically, it does fall within like illegal like parameters of discrimination where it's like you tell somebody like, hey, you're not allowed to wear your yarmulke. But when it comes to saying, hey, you need to at least be like, only your face can be showing. Are they allowed to do that? I mean, I guess so.
Well, if you're not wearing a hijab and you go into like a corporate place and you're applying for, like secretary or, just.
We need to develop a religion where you're required to have face tattoos and be in the nude. And then what about schools? Are they legally allowed to? They can't tell kids that they can't wear their religious headwear. So if you have like a nudist religion, are they allowed to reject you entry? Wouldn't that be discrimination towards your religion?
I just wanted to make a stupid joke about you go into
I'm going to make a religion genealogyism, and I'm going to require everyone to wear a beanie.
We wanted to take over the government by peaceful means.
You have to have long hair at a certain length. You have to grow your hair out, and you need a beanie.
With the assistance of some other circles, sabotage our particular plan or program. The transfer of power under military conditions. Currently, there are a large amount of rumors and hearsay. And for this reason, a strong decision is underway, so that we can implement the commitments that have been made by us within an environment of trust.
I think he's afraid to look directly into the camera because he thinks they'll steal his soul.
I don't think that's the case.
Many times I have spoken occasionally to Taliban leaders, even back in the 19...
Because I've seen interviews with like Taliban officials where they look in the camera.
This guy's not looking in the camera.
I think maybe he's camera shy. Some people just that's how they are when they're on camera.
Something similar.
No, he sees a little bit of the hair and he just gets a boner.
Okay, bad.
Do you believe that young girls, secondary school girls, will be allowed to go to school here in Afghanistan?
I would like to provide some clarification. There is no one who opposes education for women, and already girls are allowed to go to school up to grade 6, and above that grade. The work is continuing on a mechanism. You may have heard that this is not opposed at the level of leadership or the...
I think this is like kind of mental gymnastics. It's like they can take classes on culinary and shit, but they're not allowed to go to school to be doctors. So that's essentially like they can have an education.
Wait, what country is this again? Because wasn't there one...
Afghanistan.
What was the country that didn't allow women to drive until, like, what was
Saudi Arabia.
2014?
Saudi Arabia. And I know there's quite a few countries where women still aren't legally allowed to drive.
Cabinet.
And the reason that didn't want women to drive is they didn't want them to go over, like, bumps because that might excite them in their nether regions.
Postponed until further notice. In the declaration provided by the Ministry of Education, there were some shortcomings within the preparation that were ongoing. Work is ongoing on those issues. Through this interview and news channel, I am assuring that there is no one opposed to education. Only that work has started on the mechanism.
Could you tell us when you think that will happen? I know there has been a big meeting in Kandahar with your supreme leader, Mr. Akhundzadeh. Can you tell me whether any decisions were made over this past few days?
What I am saying to you is that very soon you will hear very good news about this issue, God willing. We will specify the time. On the arrangement that has been provided by the leadership, work is ongoing on that, and you will hear very good news soon.
Can I ask you, I don't know whether you have any daughters, but do you favor your daughters going to secondary school?
We all believe that education has been created as a blessing from God, which has
yeah,
been
it's God. God's the one that blessed us with education.
made essential to both men and women. As I mentioned earlier, there is no one is opposed to education. The problem is education based on the Afghan way of thinking and understanding the culture aspect of Afghanistan. There is an issue of making arrangement of Islamic rules and principle.
Says he has autism. He's avoiding eye contact. Look at all this ableism.
On a broader level,
I'm going to tell Spec on you.
the situation that exists in Afghanistan concerning the issue of hijab. Because if someone is giving away their daughters or
Can't
sisters,
have autism
they
in
do that
Islam.
based on total trust. We must establish the conditions so that we can ensure their honor and security. We are acting to ensure this.
I'm going to come back to this in a minute, but first I want to ask you about the United States
she's
because
not looking
many
at the
people in the
camera
United States
either.
are obviously interested.
Yeah, they both have it.
You have signs.
They're probably looking at each other. It's just
No,
the
they
camera.
both
slogans I've
they
seen painted
both
on the
have
walls.
it.
Some of them touting defeating the United States. Some of them say that you are by the people, of the people. About America, do you consider America still to be your enemy?
I would like to make a small clarification. The period of the last 20 years was a situation of defensive fighting and war. When the agreement was made,
I don't think 9/11 was they're part of the Taliban, so they're responsible for 9/11. I don't think that was.
So the what was it? The Arab Spring. When did that take place?
I forget.
But like during the 1970s, it was either I saw a picture. It was like Iran, Iraq, or Afghanistan, and it was on a beach, and there was these women basically in bikinis, and then all of a sudden, like 80s, 90s, they're in burqas. So like how what's the transition? What was the transition between that from the 70s to like covered up in just everything to the like just the eyes?
Religion.
I think it's kind of gradual and kind of like periodic depending on where like what region or sub-region you're in, because I know even like in earlier time periods it really varied in which part of the Middle East you're living in.
in Doha, we decided that we would not be talking about this. In the future, we would like to have good relations with the United States and the international community.
Well, if he's being honest, then okay, that's progress. If they're willing to, I mean, again, what's the best for the people? So if I was a president, I'd be like, you know what, the Taliban, they're the government now. They're willing to cooperate. It's probably going to be better in the long run where we're not butting heads, and it probably would benefit the people in their country more if we didn't starve them out. So it's like, just bite the fucking bullet.
Based on rules and principles that exist in the rest of the world. And based on that arrangement, we have made commitment with them. And currently, we do not look at them as enemies. But based on their conduct, the Afghans have reservations about their intentions. From our side, the freedom of the country and struggling for the country's defense is a legitimate right, in accordance with the international rules. Currently, we do not look at them as enemies, and we have time and again spoken about diplomacy. We are committed to the Doha Agreement. Like the rest of the world, we want relations with them, based on principles and diplomatic norms that they establish with us, and that they don't go back on that.
We'll get to some of those reasons in a moment, but I do have to ask you, Mr. Haqqani, because you know very well that you are under personal sanctions by the United States, which also has a multi-million-dollar bounty on your head. This is what a top Western official told me just
multi-million-dollar bounty. She should try to mace him and take him in.
Before I got here. He said, we're in a new world. The guy, that's you, has a huge amount of American blood on his hands. He's got, in the Taliban, the tightest ties to extremist movements. He was also one of the first to put women back to work in his ministry. We have seen his ministry take promising steps to contain terrorism. To call it a paradox is an understatement. This is not just my opinion, it's the opinion of every single envoy who works on these issues. So on the one hand, they believe you're a terrorist. I'm sorry to say, that's they who say that. On the other hand, they think they can work with you. What do you say to that?
I would say that this is a judgment that they should make. I have mentioned this before, that they have fought us intensely. And in order to defend the country and ourselves, our response was the same. But the commitment and the form of governance. In order to create secure Afghanistan, we sent a positive message to the world and sent a positive message to our nation, while the previous situation had concealed our real picture. And currently, praise God, under the conditions of freedom, our conduct is being revealed gradually to the international community. And also, this is being revealed to certain circles within the country who are thinking negatively about us.
It's like slow-mo. 2x speed.
One of the key pledges you made to the United States was that Afghanistan would never again be used as a basis for terrorism against the US or its allies. Are you still committed to that? And how do you explain, in recent months, there have been attacks here, people saying that they belong to ISIS, ISIS-K, increasingly bold attacks on education centers, even on mosques, on a bus, even on a school. Some 100 or so people have been killed in recent weeks and months. I mean, that doesn't look like a very secure situation.
The commitments that we have made, if you think about it, during the 14 months after Doha, even though there were a large number of transgressions continuing from the opposing side against us, our leadership was making recommendations to us repeatedly that we should stick to our commitment, as well as the fact that until the liberation of Kabul, we were making effort to uphold our commitment and come to power through peaceful means. Here, we have internal threats, and some are deliberately elevating the threats to portray them as a cause of concern for the nation and for the international community. There can be threats to the rest of the world that are orchestrated by a government, but we would like to strongly reassure the rest of the world that our land will not be used as a threat to anyone.
Now, why didn't she ask him questions about secularism and whether, radical views when it comes to Islam and enforcing, an Islamic State?
Because it was a softball interview.
Yeah.
Because she didn't want to get killed by the terrorists.
Men who were once fighting for this land now control it.
Well,
just kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, they're not getting mad at you, but I'm saying in a situation like this, it's like they probably are protected through some kind of diplomatic community, and they're trying to open up ties or relationships with other countries. So they probably know that, hey, this journalist asked a question about Islam and they captured her or killed her. Probably that's probably the thing preventing them from doing it, is the backlash they get.
Yeah. Gene.
John got mad at you.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Gene. Me and Dirt are getting tired.
Yeah. Well, let's get through these last two topics.
And they're enforcing the diktat of their leader.
We've only been going for 6 hours. We could go for 8 hours.
3 a.m.
6 a.m. where I am, so I'm gonna have to work in a few hours, so I'm not even going to go to bed.
I don't want to stay up any longer.
I don't have to work tomorrow.
Whoa, are they attacking my heroin?
Yeah, that's how you harvest the poppy plants.
I thought they were doing it earlier.
I mentioned the poppy.
Their son is detained for defying the ban. Released later with a warning.
Well, I think it's kind of easier to just do what they were doing, like whipping the poppy and stuff. So,
who just got a warning? It seemed like somebody got in trouble. that not the people that own the poppy plants? I think they got in trouble.
Their son is detained for defying the ban.
No, you gotta whip it.
No, they're saying define the ban.
We've been given rare access to the Taliban's campaign to eradicate poppy in Nangarhar province.
Yeah, they're destroying the poppy plants.
Family spent months growing.
Isn't that how you harvest it?
Okay, let's hear what they say. Sheb's saying there.
Their son is detained for defying the ban.
Define the ban.
With a warning. We've been given rare access to the Taliban's campaign to eradicate poppy in Nangarhar province.
Oh, I guess they're eradicating it.
But I mean, you can still harvest it even if you eradicate it the way they're doing, right?
So the field to the right that's already been destroyed, and we're walking to another one which they are in the process of destroying right now. Farmers have been trying to grow poppy hidden away from view between other crops. This field belongs to Ali Mohammed Mia. Can you tell me what I asked him why he defied the ban.
If you don't have enough food in your house and your children are going hungry, what else will you do?
I don't think that. I think that's how you harvest it. Like you whack the plant, and instead of picking it one by one, it's easier to just. Okay. Look at. They said define the ban. So they have to. Crow, look it up. Like harvesting poppy plants, how they.
Harvesting poppy plants. Okay.
Like whipping the plant. Maybe people in the chat know, because I've seen other plants being harvested that way.
What else will you do? If we grew wheat instead, we want enough to survive.
He's talking.
That's the fifth or sixth field that they're destroying.
They're destroying.
Okay, don't talk over it. I should barely hear.
Listener.
That's the fifth or sixth field that they're destroying since we've been with them, and we've only been here about 25 to 30
Okay, I guess they're destroying it.
They get through it.
Yeah,
When they hit those stops hard, they sometimes come flying in the air.
Said it
What definitely
before,
comes flying
but
is the
yeah.
sap from these buds. That's the opium resin. There's a very pungent smell of it in the air right now.
We already watched how they harvest it. They cut it with a razor and get the sap, remember?
Well, they do it with the buds, but you have to collect the buds, and sometimes, like, I do know there's plants where they do that, where they'll, like, knock the plant down and stuff, because it's easier to go through and just pick up all the buds once they scatter to the ground, instead of plucking them off one by one.
Yeah, and if you have to milk the poppy seed, if you just, like, kill it, or just, like, whack the stem, couldn't you do the same thing? Like, couldn't you just, like, whack it? Oh, it's off it's not growing. And then you can still...
No razor wire. Shad needs to learn to be a man.
Sure, technically, people could go through this field and collect those and still get the sap, but they just fucked him over in a big way when it comes to him producing.
Yeah.
They just fucked up a field worth of plants. That's the least he could do right now is just collect what he got left, but it's gonna take a while to get those poppy plants back up and everything, I'm sure.
Wait, also isn't heroin or like what you make out of poppies basically morphine? So it's natural morphine, right?
I don't know what differentiates heroin from like morphine and morphine from opium. I know they're all pretty much
very much
derived
similar.
from the same plant. And I know opiates and stuff. Like when I had my teeth pulled, they gave me opiates and so forth for the pain, and that it's pretty much one of the most commonly used pain medications in hospitals. But they're all pretty much it's like Adderall meth. It's like
well, wouldn't you rather have natural, pain relievers than like?
I don't agree.
How it works. So I don't know if you smoke opium and stuff, if that necessarily has when it comes to the street drugs, like the addictive properties. I don't know how exactly it works when it comes to processing the plant and what kind of effect that has on the addictive properties.
I kind of don't really buy with the whole argument of just natural. I think that it maybe sounds good to begin with, but I could imagine in the future that I mean, morphine probably is probably safer for use as a pain medication than heroin, right? And it's probably for a reason why it's a bit different, and it's not just completely natural.
Look up
I'd imagine
the difference
that
between heroin and morphine.
Well, what I'm getting to is that I could imagine in the future, as we figure out more stuff, that there could be a lot more artificial stuff like that in our lives that benefit us, including like maybe food or stuff that we use like that, more artificially made stuff, and maybe it'd be healthier than this natural stuff, you know. I don't know. I don't really buy with the idea that artificial or whatever, like natural equals good, artificial equals bad.
Okay, so here,
I think I'm the only one that's been to rehab.
The sun's coming up.
So
prove it.
Opium versus heroin. Both opium and heroin offer similar effects, namely creating euphoria and suppressing pain. Of course, there are many differences when we look at the heroin versus opium. Opium comes directly from the naturally occurring narcotic. Manufacturers extract the sap of the unripe bulb of the poppy plant. The drug counts morphine as its active ingredient, which works to suppress pain receptors in the brain. So is opium heroin. Heroin is a synthetic substance that uses opium as its primary active ingredient. So it contains opium, but it's not opium. Manufacturing processing dictates manufacturers convert the opium into pure morphine, which then turns into chemically changed heroin. The process produces a substance that has a higher level of potency than the opium extract. The higher potency leads to more euphoria and eventually more significant problems. So I do know that in hospitals, they tend to give you morphine. And usually what you're getting on the street, it's kind of like the difference between Adderall and meth. It's when you're getting opioids for like pain medication, it's not the same thing as the heroin you shoot up and inject in your veins.
Yeah.
In your reins.
In your reins.
Did I say that?
Probably.
Afghanistan used to produce more than 80% of the world's opium. The Taliban are accused of profiting from it when they were fighting against foreign forces and former Afghan regime.
Like 80%, now it's like 50. See? Jesus. They need to step up their game.
But now, from what we've seen and from satellite images, there's evidence of an unprecedented reduction. This is Helmand province. It used to be Afghanistan's.
No, amphetamines and like opium, they're two completely different things. They're not. No, they're not the same thing.
Wheat now stands where poppy was grown. Niamatullah Bilsois tells us that in this stronghold,
amphetamines don't come naturally, right? And then opioids that you get from like
a plant, yeah, they're more natural.
Yeah.
These fields used to be front lines, and for a people already battered by war, the ban is another blow.
And I know, like in China, you had the opium wars, so it's like one thing that was very common in China for a long time is they would smoke opium, and it's like with cocaine, the cocoa plant. One of the things people will do is they'll chew and suck on the plant to get that sort of buzz.
Well, they still do that, and
But that was the more conventional thing before they start to process it into like cocaine.
Hunger is at its peak, and we haven't got any.
And I don't know if this is true or not, but this is a theory where we get the term hippie is opium dens. So someone goes into an opium den, they get fucking high on opium.
An opium den. What happens?
And they just fucking lay there, and then like fucking like get high, fall asleep, fucking wake up or whatever.
No, that's a different type of cocoa plant.
No, I said opium.
I know. I'm razor wire. They're like there's cocaine in my hot cocoa.
Oh yeah, that's a different cocoa.
It's pronounced the same, spelled differently.
No, coca. Coca.
Yeah.
COCOA.
Say they're not getting any support from your government. How do you plan to help them?
We know that people are very poor, but opium causes a lot of addiction. We call on international organizations to help Afghans facing losses.
But then at the same time,
well, coca, yeah, but they still call it cocoa. So like cocoa powder.
Well, that's where we get Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
and the funding of aid agencies in this country extremely difficult by the ban on Afghan women working for them. You can't have it both ways.
They should not link humanitarian issues with political matters. Opium isn't just harming Afghanistan. The whole world is affected by it.
Opium ferret from Afghan fields produced.
Yeah, so the cocoa plant that coke is from, see, drug education. It's COCA, or I guess coca, and then the cocoa plant that like chocolate derives from and comes from a tree is CACAO.
Cacao. Yeah, I don't like I don't like that. I don't like how it's cacao.
People will pronounce it as cocoa. I mean, maybe they're not supposed to. Maybe it's kind of like guillotine. But I guess it's more of an informal pronunciation.
Sold in Europe. How will prices be impacted?
We've been driving through the provinces of Helmand and Kandahar. Traditionally, these used to be the two main poppy-growing provinces of Afghanistan, a country that used to produce more than 80% of the world's
fuck up,
we
young
were in the same
man. You
areas
don't
around the same
know.
time last year, and everywhere you looked, you could see poppy, and only a few fields with other crops.
Well, okay, Billy's just being mean tonight. Laugh out loud, Gene acting like he knows things. What am I wrong about here?
What the fuck, Bill Hicks?
Yeah. Why don't you do some showing as opposed to telling and tell me what I'm misinformed?
Yeah.
In regards to
Spotted fields that have wheat growing in them, grapes, lots and lots of barren land, but not a single poppy field.
We met a farmer holding on to a small stash of his harvest from last year. We're not naming him to protect him. He told us the price of each of these bags is now 5 times what it was before the ban. He's waiting for it to rise further, so it can
His
sustain
name
his
is
family.
Ibrahim.
For now, the Taliban appear to have accomplished what no one else could.
So.
Oh, Bill's just fucking with us, I guess.
Dude, why do you keep trolling, Bill?
Yeah, why, Bill? Why?
Did you hear that?
Hear what?
No, never mind. So.
Would you fart?
It was a ghost.
Gene farted again, guys.
No, cacao. No, caca is shit in Spanish.
Why did it say? Okay, there we go.
Coca.
Coca.
It's
Coca.
either coca or cacao. But the bean is
Coca.
Yeah, a homograph, that's a word that has 2 different pronunciations, but I don't know if that's the case.
Damn Razor.
Oh, I thought you said raisin
Cacao.
for a second. I'm just
Cacao.
like, shit.
Cacao.
Yeah.
Cacao.
Well, talking about people that know stuff, she knows her shit. She's talking about stuff. I mean, did you know that violent crime has been on a notable rise in the last few decades? Did you know that? That people are attacking people at unprecedented rates.
Yeah, because they're not the president.
Yeah. Did you know that all people need to do if they're in the suburbs where there's no public transportation, it's just move to the city? It's that simple. Did you know that?
Also, Gene, if when I come to
did you know you could power an entire concert with just 2 exercise bikes? Did you know that?
John.
Yeah.
If I make it to the meetup, I have to.
He triggers. He mentioned her, not me. It's always other people that mention it. But go ahead, Grow.
No, if I make it to the meetup, I have to hit the Denver airport. Should I explore all the the cult what is
you're coming to the Denver airport?
Yeah, I have to hit the Denver airport and then I have to fucking fly into a different fucking city. But
Denver is right near
no, it's fucking weird because I'm in the Midwest, so I have to go fucking east or wait, north, east. I have to go west in order to go east. So, but the Denver airport, I have to get. Should I go to the mural? That weird mural that has a bunch of conspiracy like theories about it.
Maybe take some photos of it.
Yeah.
Take some photos of you.
But there are questions about how long they can sustain it. Yogi Talumai, BBC News, Kandahar.
Multi-million-dollar production lines have been pumping out some of Afghanistan's most popular fizzy drinks. Despite all the turmoil over the last 20 years, these bottles have not only retained their local base, but they've now found a market in 28 countries. It's an important economic lifeline for hundreds of workers and associated supply chain industries. Since the collapse of the former government, Afghanistan's exports have declined. Many large business owners have set up companies abroad to circumvent sanctions.
Afghanistan has to be acknowledged as a nation by all countries. We have to deal with problems related to banking, visas, and international travel. We need facilitation, not assistance, and access to the global market for purchases and banking activities.
Although there are banking restrictions, and no other government recognizes this one in Afghanistan, but businesses are continuing with an annual turnover of over 50.
Wait, did you? Oh, are you going to Denver, like Ohio, or?
I'm gonna go from my state or my capital to Denver to Cincinnati to DC. I do believe that's the plan.
Yeah, you said Denver for some reason because I'm starting to fall asleep as well. I thought you meant Dover, like Delaware, because that's right near me.
Oh,
that's the city, and I'm like, why are you flying to Delaware and flying to DC? That's right next to it.
$50 million. This factory alone produces over $10 million worth of exports.
Agricultural products, including pine nuts, remain the biggest export. China is buying the largest amount, surpassing traditional markets in the Gulf states, Europe, and America. Once polished, roasted, sorted, they fetch a high price. But Chinese importers buy non-processed or raw pine nuts. That means less revenue and fewer jobs for many Afghans whose livelihoods depend on the industry.
This is the only time
Because of drug trafficking, cargoes from Afghanistan go through extra scrutiny. That has a further
with the face mask
impact on exports.
Most of the time, our neighbors purchase Afghan pine nuts at a reduced cost or smuggle them. Then they export to other nations. We require facilitation for regular trade. There should be arrangements between governments for businessmen on both sides.
From mountains of minerals to the world's most expensive spice, Afghans know they have a lot to offer to the outside world. But hand-picked delicate strands of saffron are no match for minerals like coal, whose exports had a drastic decline. It's an important contributor to nearly $150 million annual exports.
Is the most expensive spice.
Afghanistan's increasing imports mean it's buying more than it's selling.
And saffron, apparently, you know what one thing is that people take it for?
You told me recently. I don't know.
I want to say cooking, but it's not cooking.
Well, they use it as a spice in cooking, so like I said, it's the most expensive spice. It's also used as an herbal remedy for depression or for anxiety. So it's similar to St. John's wort is another herbal sort of supplement that people take for depression. I'd say they definitely aren't as efficient as so I have OCD's connected with anxiety, so I was thinking maybe I should try these. You can definitely tell you feel a little less anxious. It definitely doesn't have anywhere near the level of effect.
Trade deficit, and unless the current government comes up with a comprehensive economic plan and external restrictions on
saffron
Afghanistan
is very expensive. I think there's only one country that produces a shit ton. Actually, not a shit ton.
It's a Middle Eastern country.
You have to pay a shit ton for it.
Isn't it Iran where most of it is produced?
I think so.
Look it up. Country that produces the most saffron.
And
is unlikely to flourish.
If you ever have wasabi, it's just green horseradish.
Taliban officials are attending a United Nations conference on the future of Afghanistan. It's the first time that they've joined such talks. Activists criticizing the UN for inviting the Afghan to gather. Human rights and women's groups accuse the Taliban of wide-ranging abuses.
It was the Doha Accord, signed 4 years ago between the US and the Taliban, that helped the Taliban to come to power in August 2021. Central to the deal was an assurance that Afghanistan will not become a safe haven for terrorists. But according to the United Nations, multiple militant groups, including Al-Qaeda, operate out of Afghanistan. And it's Afghanistan's neighbors that are feeling the most heat. Pakistan, with which Afghanistan shares a more than 2,500-kilometer-long border, says terrorist attacks targeting its soldiers and civilians have increased since the Afghan Taliban took control. Pakistan claims hundreds have been killed in these attacks. China, Russia, and
OCD is narcissistic. I'm fairly certain there's not a connection between those two things.
And others are also concerned by the threat of terrorism emanating from Afghanistan. The attack in Moscow this March killed more than 130 people. The attack was claimed by an affiliate of the so-called Islamic State based out of Afghanistan.
So, here's something where there's another faction gunning for control of Afghanistan. Do you know what faction it is?
Which one?
Some Nazis.
ISIS.
So, they're back?
What do you mean they're back? They've never...
They didn't go away, but they've never been, like, super,
they've been fighting with, like, Taliban forever. So they support, like, two different sects of, like one Sunni, one Shiite. But one of the things ISIS did recently is they, like, conducted a terrorist attack on a Russian airport. And that's one of the things they do as, like, a form of marketing. It's like, how do they grow their numbers? They conduct a terrorist attack, and then that makes their presence known. So people are more likely to enlist in, like, ISIS. But it's something where they can't do it too much, because then the rest of the world will get involved. Like, we need to deal with them. So they have to walk that, like, fine line. But just recently, they've conducted a few terrorist attacks. Like, one was in Russia, and then they also bombed. They killed, like, it was in, I think, Jordan. It was at a funeral for, like, one of their, like heads of state, and they ended up, they bombed that and they blamed it on Israel, and it turned out to be ISIS. So, currently, the Taliban, which is ironic, they're a terrorist group. Now they've taken control of the country. Now they're the government, and now they're dealing with fighting against another terrorist group trying to take them over. So, the cycle continues.
But it's not only a threat of terrorism that has the world worried. Afghan Taliban are carrying out practices like these public executions. Women continue to face repressive laws and are banned from public life. Girls older
Wait. Your certainty doesn't make you right. What, about OCD and narcissism being connected? Like, I'm fairly certain narcissistic personality disorder is just that, a personality disorder. And personality disorders are developed through mostly environmental. There's some genetic factors, but then there's the environmental factors that mostly contribute to a person developing narcissism. And I'm fairly certain that the style of parenting that plays the biggest role in somebody developing narcissistic personality disorder is permissive parenting. OCD is usually caused by brain trauma and is more empirical and has more to do with people who have more neurological disorders. So I have cortical dysplasia at my left temporal lobe, which is the same thing that causes the seizures, and that's why a lot of people who have epilepsy also have OCD. It's very common for people who get into car accidents to develop OCD and stuff, or experience traumatic brain injuries. So OCD is much more based on chemical factors, and narcissism is much more based on environmental factors.
11 years are still not allowed to study in schools and colleges.
That's why John
the UN has promised that even though it engages with the Taliban, there will be no compromises on women's rights. As the Taliban meet world officials, many are hoping that the diplomacy may open new ways for a more convincing dialogue.
Wait, you said it's only a personality disorder when it's diagnosed as a personality disorder? What does that mean? That's like saying that, like, borderline personality disorder is only a personality disorder when it's diagnosed. I mean, there's the basic dictionary definition, but the problem with that is that that's where you get into subjectivity. It's like everyone accuses everyone else of being a narcissist. You disagree with me? You're a narcissist.
Nah.
With the Taliban.
I disagree with you.
By Leena Javid. Give some more background. How did it come to this talks between the UN and the Taliban?
Ben, it has been quite the process. The UN started this process last year to discuss the future of Afghanistan and basically excluded the Afghan Taliban. This year in February, Afghan Taliban refused to participate because the UN had invited Afghan civil rights groups. And this time, human rights groups say basically the UN has succumbed to the pressure of the Afghan Taliban and have invited them to have a dialogue without inclusion of any human rights groups and women's rights activists.
Let's get to the other thing, title of the video. Here we go, Shab.
Yeah,
take us just an hour or two to get through this.
Of the fighting that's happening there in the Middle East. Now, we know this conflict is happening simultaneously with the conflict with Hamas, as you just explained, and many of the viewers concerned about that regional conflict
So,
that
Shab,
you expressed, when you
do you know who Hezbollah, like, who they are?
Oh yeah, that's the little midget dude that looks like he's like 5 years old.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I know who Hezbollah
what's
is.
their name again?
The Hezbollah is a little midget dude that looks like he's like 5 and he hurts cats or whatever. He's a silly guy. So yeah, what about Hezbollah? Are we gonna watch him fuck up another cat?
They're a group in Lebanon and they are known as the most heavily armed militia or non-state militia. And currently, they have access to like something between like 40 to 100,000 personnel, and they have access to like 150 something ballistic like missiles and artillery. So they're pretty well armed. So they've been firing at Israel, demanding a ceasefire with Hamas. So this might turn into a two-front war.
Here are fighters joining a terroristic organization to try to defeat Israel. You wonder, in fact, that they might also
Israel fucking bombed Lebanon, right?
Yeah, and that's something they're pissed off over, that they like ended up bombing a general.
Is running the axis of resistance.
They used trebuchet. We covered that last week.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was a trebuchet. They trebuchet.
So there are no
using a trebuchet.
Currently engaged with Israel or ready to take part in the fight in the event that this becomes a full regional conflict. Israel only has the United States right now supporting it, and in actions against the Houthis, the UK and France and a few other countries
I don't
have
think
taken some action against
trebuchets
the
are
Houthis,
covered under the Geneva Convention.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, continue their operations also.
But it does remind me of like the Rick and Morty episode where it's like, oh, like Rick, they're at the sperm episode, the catapult, and he's like, that's your trebuchet. He's like, really? Like just not even like calling him out for being a pedantic spurg, and then the Marines like, oh my God, that's an S-tier trebuchet. We better take fire.
That is going on inside the Gaza Strip. The IDF has said that they are about to complete their operations in Rafah, even though those tunnels still remain, and that that is where most of their fighting is taking place, is identifying and destroying tunnels in Rafah. Right now, across the Gaza Strip, there is more IDF activity north of Rafah in either central Gaza Strip or up in Gaza City than there is going on down in Rafah, which is supposed to be.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has urged Israel not to further escalate the ongoing conflict with Hezbollah across the Israel-Lebanon border. Both sides have been exchanging fire on an almost daily basis since the Hamas terror attack on Israel late last year.
Remember Biden, like, he made like an address to like Lebanon, and he shows up and he's like, don't. President Biden has one message to them. No. It's like, whoa, God. Got him.
Earlier this week, Israel's military revealed that it had approved an operational plan to invade Lebanon and secure the border. Let's take a look at each side's military capabilities and what this would mean if a war broke out.
Oh, that'd be a two-front war.
Israeli air defenses are common.
And so Israel is focused on taking over the Gaza Strip and just everything Muslim. Everything
Muslim.
Palestine land.
Yeah.
But
Palestine land.
You know what I'm trying to fucking say.
Okay, go ahead.
But if they're like Lebanon tries to be like, hey, don't do that, and then they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do that. So you got two-front war. Yeah, Lebanon's not going to take as much land, or not Lebanon, but Israel's not going to take as much land as they want to, because Lebanon is going to be like, hey, don't fuck around over here in my neighborhood.
We need to start donating to Lebanon, get them a bunch of trebuchets.
Occurrence in recent weeks.
Trebuchet battalion.
And Israel has retaliated with devastating airstrikes. Hezbollah was founded as an anti-American and anti-Israel militia in the 1980s when it carried out deadly car bombings on American forces in Lebanon. The group has fought several wars with Israel since then and has become a major political force, backed by hundreds of millions of dollars in funding from Iran. The militia prizes secrecy and typically doesn't reveal information on its capabilities, so any estimates of its forces are just that. But in recent years, U.S. intelligence has put its strength at 45,000 soldiers, including full-time and reservist fighters. The group's leader referred to having 100,000 fighters in 2021. If that were true, it would have more soldiers than the Lebanese army. Last year, the U.S. estimated that Hezbollah also has 150,000 rockets and missiles, more than enough to overwhelm Israeli air defenses and cause significant damage to infrastructure in a war. Israel has one of the world's most modern militaries. In addition to 170,000 active-duty soldiers, there are about 465,000 reservists. It also has about 1,400 tanks, as well as significant artillery and multiple rocket-launching capabilities. It also has an air force with over 200 jet fighters and almost 150 helicopters. And it's widely considered to have nuclear weapons, though it's unlikely to use them right across its own border. There's also the Iron Dome, an advanced anti-missile system that has intercepted thousands of rockets from Hezbollah and Hamas, something Hezbollah itself lacks. An all-out war would likely cause significant damage to Israeli and Lebanese cities with high civilian casualties. After months of fighting Hamas in Gaza, Israel's army is also in danger of being overstretched. And there are worries that intense fighting could bring in Iran and the US in a major regional conflict.
Let's get more from DW correspondent Rebecca Ritters, who's
like, hey, they have like 100-something tanks, 800 tanks, and so forth. With me, it's just when I first started to read about global politics and so forth, and you pay attention to like how many military vehicles, like naval vessels, I understand, but and maybe they're not being honest or whatever. Maybe they have stockpiles of tanks like the United States and stuff, Russia, that they don't let people know about. But my thing is, it seems like when it comes to assembly lines and stuff like that, it's like the more you have in reserve, the better. And I guess I guess I'm answering my own question here because it's probably because it doesn't take that many years for it to be obsolete. So if you just manufacture a shit ton and keep them in stockpiles, it's like, World War II, 80 style tanks are going to compare to the most modern versions.
Following events in Jerusalem, Rebecca, is the Israeli army prepared for
sometimes when you think
war,
about
one
things
against Hamas in the Gaza Strip
for a
and
second, you're able to answer your own questions.
Hezbollah in Lebanon?
Well, Birish, the Israeli military maintained that they are prepared for anything. They have had troops stationed up.
Next vid.
The European Union's top diplomat warns the risk of Israel's war spilling over into Lebanon.
Is it because she wasn't hot?
Before, pointing to increased bombings on both sides of the border. Ben Wiedemann is in Lebanon, where life goes on as the shadow of war looms large.
It's a day of joy and celebration here in South Lebanon.
Israeli forces are just about 5 miles away from here, but nonetheless here in the town of Hasbaya, there's a wedding going on.
It didn't seem right.
So Brian says Lebanon ain't gonna take it. They're just not gonna take it anymore.
A special day for newlyweds Taimur and Fatin, with questions about the dark clouds hovering over Lebanon.
It's like Shab hate you right now,
Gene. War is around the corner. Hasbaya has been spared the worst of the barrages and counter barrages between Israel and Hezbollah.
Okay, this is in the title of the video. We gotta at least cover 30 minutes of this.
Stop anyone from firing towards Israel. Parliament member Ilyas Jaradi was elected to represent Christians in this area.
Majority of the southern people, majority of the Lebanese people, from all sects, all religions, all parties, they are, in one way or another, they are committed with the Palestinian.
Everyone we spoke with had a completely contrary opinion. Few people wanted to speak on camera about the looming danger of war for fear of repercussions. Off camera, we got an earful. There is zero appetite for escalation, little support for Hezbollah. 85-year-old Abu Nabil has seen it all. War and civil war, invasions and occupation. War is ruination, he says. In war, everyone loses, even the winner. Abu Nabil knows of what he speaks.
What did he say? Okay, ready?
85-year-old Abu Nabil has seen it all. War and civil war, invasions and occupation. War is ruination, he says.
Ruination or rumination?
In war, everyone loses, even the winner.
I think
Abu Nabil knows of what he speaks.
That might be
Since
a
October,
word.
Israel and Hezbollah and its allies have been engaged in low-intensity warfare, largely limited to the border. If full-scale war breaks out, that war will spread well beyond the frontier.
No, that is a word. I don't even have to look it up.
Last week, Israeli generals approved a plan to attack Lebanon. While Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah recently warned if it comes to war, the group will fight Israel on land, sea, and air, and also inside Israel itself. The Iranian-backed group's sophisticated attacks have surprised Israeli officials, including precision strikes on surveillance posts on the border, shooting down high-flying Israeli drones, and knocking out anti-missile and anti-drone defenses, and posting online more than 9 minutes of what it claimed was drone footage of sensitive military and civilian infrastructure in and around the city of Haifa. The bell summons the faithful to mass in the predominantly Christian town of Marjayun. More than 90,000 people have already left the south for safer ground. Amal says she's determined to stay, but adds, if things escalate to war and it reaches here like it did before with some shelling, of course, like others, we'll have to leave. For now, they can only pray for peace and hope those prayers are heard.
Yeah, you eat that shit, bitch.
Ben Wiedemann joins us now from Beirut. Ben, I want you to unpack this for us because the rhetoric has...
Welcome back. Concerns are growing in the Middle East of a widening war, with Iran-backed Hezbollah threatening to retaliate against Cyprus now if it helps Israel attack Lebanon. The Hezbollah leader...
What do you think that red stuff is, Shad?
Used as a transit point for U.S. weapons to get to Israel. At this point, that is unconfirmed, but I did ask
probably,
the
I know, it's blood.
To those land crossings, though, we know that there have been a number of issues. One of them being
Or is it wine?
trucks trying to get into Gaza. And today we did get to see for ourselves how those trucks are being inspected. So they have these massive scanners that the trucks actually drive.
Cyprus is declining to say whether the country is also being used as a transit stop to send U.S. weapons to Israel. ABC's Anessa Lucatera is there in Cyprus now. Joins me
they
with more.
brought
Now,
up the
US military. Tell us a bit of what you've seen so far.
The little pier.
Hey, Phil, yeah, so today we got to visit the port
It's
of
been
Mordecai here in Cyprus.
deconstructed or attacked like 3 times. And it's been constructed 3 times.
Hamas did it.
And we finally figured it out.
For ourselves how those trucks are being inspected. So they have
Well,
it was Hamas. No, go ahead.
Okay, no, so like, yeah, in this case, on this topic,
concerns are growing.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
Thank you.
No, I accidentally clicked on the. But go ahead.
No. I was thanking the guy on the TV. But no, you were like, oh, how long is it gonna last? Yeah.
Johnny Boy, you said free Jerusalem. From who?
Jerusalem.
I always feel like Jerusalem should be its own state. It should be like the Vatican City, kind of. I do think with the level of religious significance, maybe it should be some like it shouldn't belong to a particular country. I kind of think that maybe Jerusalem should be its own little city-state. Like, there are parts of the planet that I think should be UN. Like, I think the Panama Canal, the Suez Canal, and the Gibraltar Strait should all be, like, all of those, like, canals and straits that, like, rely on maritime trade and multiple different countries rely on, like, shipments coming in and out. I do kind of feel that those should all just, these little slithers of land should just be run by the UN. And then I kind of think that, I don't know, something like Jerusalem, I could see why it makes sense to make that some kind of, like, neutral zone where the UN just, like, regulates it and people can maybe work there, but I don't know.
Going in the Middle East of a widening war, with Iran-backed Hezbollah threatening to retaliate against Cyprus now. If it helps Israel attack Lebanon, Hezbollah leaders saying Cyprus will be, quote, part of the war
on a sleep chat.
to use its air.
Okay. We only have 77 videos.
Yeah, what? Come on. Yeah.
Come on, Chad.
You
okay, do you want to end it, Chad?
I do. I'm gonna go grab a gun right the fuck now. Okay, so everybody hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. I'm gonna go. What?
Wait. I have a shit ton of content, so I don't know if I could get a partner like Dirt or Crow or somebody. Maybe we could do another stream.
Shabisky, can we at least finish this video? It's almost done.
Airports and bases. Ports in Cyprus are being used to deliver aid to Gaza, but the U.S. ambassador to Cyprus is declining to say whether the country is also being used as a transit stop to send U.S. weapons to Israel. ABC's Inez de la in Cyprus now joins me with more. Inez, you've been embedded with the U.S. military. Tell us a bit of what you've seen so far.
Hey, Phil, yeah, so today we got to visit the port of Larnaca here in Cyprus, where members of the U.S. military and U.S. aid workers have been loading and inspecting the aid that's being sent to Gaza via sea to the J-Lot pier that's been built off the coast of Gaza. Now, it takes 14 hours for that aid to leave Cyprus and actually get to the pier, so it's a long journey, and officials here recognize that it is by no means the most efficient way to get aid into Gaza. They say this is just meant to supplement the aid that should be getting in via land. When it comes to those land crossings, though, we know that there have been a number of issues, one of them being the inspections that are holding up the trucks trying to get into Gaza. And today we did get to see for ourselves how those trucks are being inspected. So we have these massive scanners that the trucks actually drive through, and once they are clear,
just because we can finish the video,
mark on each individual pallet to indicate that it is.
Started
I think it was almost over. It's I think this little red bar right here.
Oh, yeah, that's probably
unfortunately, though, a lot of the aid that's being sent is ending up on beaches, kind of piling up on beaches, because the distribution.
Do you want to end the chat?
All right. Thank you guys for support on the stream.
Has anyone donated?
Not this stream.
You guys are terrible. You suck. You should be ashamed of yourself. You guys are worse than Crow.
You guys are horrible. All right.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Like, subscribe, donate. I've been doing more streams of late, so I'll probably try to do another RoboCop stream. And maybe we're doing Dirt and I on Tuesdays, do patron movie commentary streams.
Oh, yeah, Tuesdays now. Not Mondays, but Tuesdays.
Well, it's been Tuesdays for a while.
Oh, yeah, but Mondays are movies, and you fucking try to skip that.
Yeah, and, well, yeah, Shep wants to get to bed. So
yeah, I gotta go sleep with your mom.
Follow me on everything. Follow me on Twitter. Do everything. Join my Discord. Hang out there.
Yeah.
Peace out.